Let me call the City Commission meeting July 7th, 2020 to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Weissman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weinberg.
Here.
Commissioner Landman.
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks.
Here.
Commissioner Mizrahi.
Here.
Commissioner Neurosky.
Here.
Commissioner Shelley.
Here.
Mr. Watson.
Here.
Mr. Waldman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. This meeting shall be held in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 2020-69, extended through Executive Orders 20-112, 20-123, 20-139, and 20-150. Because of COVID-19 and the need to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare, this meeting is being conducted remotely via Zoom. Due to the ongoing state of emergency and the recommendations from all public health authorities, the City of Aventura recommends that all persons view and participate in the meeting through electronic means. Members of the public have been directed on how to access the meeting through the agenda posted online and at the government center. Members of the public will be able to provide comments via audio when the item is opened to public comment. The city clerk will provide directions on how to participate when the item is opened for public comment. With that, I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Weinberg to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
It'd be a pleasure. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the city manager if there are any deletions or additions to the agenda.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm going to ask if we can remove 5G from the consent agenda to be considered at a later date. And I'd ask for the another item to be switched in the quasi-judicial portion of the hearing of the meeting tonight.
All right, wait 1 second, Ron.
I'm sorry.
I thought there was something in the consent on I,
I'm gonna cover that when we get to consent.
because that's all I'm asking about now. Really?
Okay, thought we were asking for J. Yes, I would like to pull also item I from the agenda so that the public may have a chance to make comment if they wish to.
Okay, so let me make sure everybody understands, if it is all right with the commission. We are removing item G from the consent agenda. It will be brought up at a later date. And on item I, we're doing what we normally do when we remove an item from the consent agenda. We're going to look at that one separately. Okay,
Correct.
we will address it separately. We'll be able to discuss it and you'll be able to vote on I independent of the consent agenda. So let me ask, do we have consensus to move forward removing 5G for some time in the future, soon, near future, and taking item I off the consent agenda and looking at it individually?
Yes.
Good. Thumbs up is a good, thumbs and nods I can get on Zoom. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Okay. The consent agenda is really, and that's because we're on Zoom.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Yes, Vice
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. I wanted to see if we could add an item.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was hoping this wouldn't be necessary, but I think we need to add a discussion item regarding a possible resolution supporting the removal of the Florida State University Student Senate President.
Mr. Attorney, you know, I asked the city manager if he had additions or deletions. I believe that Vice Mayor Weinberg can bring that up at a, after we
It could be brought up, Mayor, as,
business. in
There
new
could be
business.
as other business at
Right,
the end
other
of the
business.
agenda to see if something needs to be done.
Okay, and because you looked,
This-
for
this
our
is-
attorney's benefit, there's a situation at Florida State University where the student president of the Student Senate has made some egregious comments, and we'll wait till later for Vice Mayor Weinberg to mention his resolution. Vice Mayor, is that all right?
Yes, I thank you all for adding that.
Okay. All right. So let me ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, omitting Commissioner Marks.
I also would have liked to pull two items from the consent agenda just for discussion tonight instead. Discussion and approval. I don't think we were asked to skip
Item number, give me the item number.
item E and item H.
Okay, so we don't really have much of a consent agenda tonight, but that's fine. So what we are approving on the consent agenda is item A, item B, item C, item D, item F, and that's it. Can I have a motion to approve those following items? Made by
Motion. I'll
Commissioner
motion.
Shelley, made by Commissioner Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Mizrahi. Can I ask the clerk for a roll call vote on those items in the consent agenda?
Commissioner Landon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, the first item we've pulled from the consent agenda is item E, and that was pulled by Dr. Mark, so I'm going to ask her to please present what she would like to. Attorney Waldman, would you like to read it first?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, approving the appointment of a member to the Don Sofa Aventura High School Foundation Incorporated Board of Directors for the remainder of a one-year term and providing for an effective date.
Dr. Marks.
So because we're not meeting in person and we're not able to provide a certificate in person when we have someone who is joining or being appointed to the foundation board, I would just wanted to pull the item so that we could acknowledge the fact that Dr. Andrea Beck is a person that has been recommended to fill the position to sit on the foundation board, and her background is very strong in development. I think she'll be a great addition. So I just want to, again, just mention her because we can't really do anything publicly because we're not all together.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, you pulled it just so that when we are all able to meet in person, and I'd like the city clerk to make a note of this, that we will formally recognize Mrs. Andrea Burke for being put on the board at some time in the future when we meet in person. Is that, I captured it?
I was really just saying that because we can't go down and hand her a certificate tonight, and it would be on the consent agenda, so no one would even know that we appointed her. I just wanted to acknowledge that we're appointing a very qualified young lady to the foundation board, and I think she'll be a great addition to.
Okay, so I need to, and this is going to be a few times, so I need to have a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Can I have a second? Seconded, made by Commissioner Dr. Linda Marks, seconded by Commissioner Landman. Can I just directly ask the city clerk for a roll call vote?
Mayor Weissman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shelley.
Yes, I'm familiar with her and she'll be a great addition.
The motion passes.
Okay. Next item for separate consideration is item H on the consent agenda, no longer, and I'm going to ask the attorney to please read it.
Thank you, Mayor. A motion of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, acting in its capacity as the governing board for the city's Aventura City of Excellence School and governing board for the city's Don Sofa Aventura High School, approving a threat assessment policy and procedures for both of the city schools.
Okay, Dr. Marks?
So I pulled this because this didn't come to a workshop, and I think it's a very important topic. And I don't know, I guess I have to ask our city manager if this could, we do have a liaison meeting, or we have a workshop meeting coming up, if we could just table it to then to discuss it.
We can, just so you know, this is the same threat assessment that we are required to pass every year from the Department of Education. It's reviewed by the police department. I don't believe we did it last year at a workshop. It's just one of the requirements that due to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. We do have a liaison meeting, but because we don't meet in August, it's kind of a very time, it is a time sensitive document that really does need approval. And I'm going to ask that you please don't table it. I'd be happy to bring it and we can discuss it more fully at the liaison meeting. But it is.
Wait, people, I need to see hands because it's very hard, and it's hard for the people in the room that are just listening and not even seeing us. So, Dr. Marks, were you speaking?
I was just wondering if we could schedule a special purpose commission meeting for the one item right after the workshop so that at least we could have discussed it first. And again, it didn't come to workshop last year, and I think we should, it's a very important document, and I'm just wondering if we could have an opportunity to discuss it. And then maybe look at the,
any other commissioner that might want to talk on this? Is Commissioner Shelley?
Ron, if I'm not mistaken, is this the same thing we approved last year? I mean, there's a couple of questions. Is this the same thing we approved last year?
Yes.
Okay, and this is primarily the security process, et cetera, for our school system?
It's required by the state and through the Miami-Dade County. And unfortunately, Dr. Marks, we get some of these things very last minute, and usually sometimes after the ability to even put it on a workshop. However, this one is of particular importance. The Department of Education is allowing us to today, because I promised them we would be approving it tonight. And so again, I'm not sure if we have enough time to even advertise something for Friday, if there would even be time for that to schedule a special meeting. But again, I would be more than happy to discuss it more fully. And
I also had concerns about this item, and I was told that it's the same thing we did last year. There are other circumstances that come into play this year. Last year, we weren't dealing with COVID, and some of the explicit directions we were told we had to give children to go into corners, to go into closets, is in direct conflict. So my question is, I asked you, what were the changes in light of the current circumstances that we made between last year's and this year's? And if you'll remember, I just asked for a strike through or a document. It makes it much easier for us when a document's this long. If we could just say what's current in it, I personally am more than happy, and I will let you explain it to me, but I think you need to put on your permanent calendar the month of June and write that this is always due to the state, because it's an annual thing that we're going to have to do, and we don't need to be behind in getting it to the state or in the commission having the opportunity to really go through the document. And again, I read it pretty thoroughly. I don't believe there's anything that has been done to update it because of COVID. And so when I'm told that the police staff and city manager staff have reviewed it, and I just want to know, just for our kids to be safe. And of course, we don't even know what school's like, but I'm comfortable. If you're willing to address it, you can always send an amendment up later. But we cannot put kids in corners and in closets with the COVID. So I think we need to get the best minds on the table. And I saw the attorney nodding. We can always add an amendment to the plan, but I understand the time sensitivity. And I think if I heard, and I'm summarizing Dr. Marks, it's also the lateness in us getting it. It's a very important document, and it would have served us all well to have workshopped it. Is there anything else, Commissioner Marks?
Let me just for an example of why I'm uncomfortable just approving this tonight. And Bob, it was different times last year, but more importantly, I think that we've all become much more aware of threats and you know, just all of the additional issues that are occurring. But if I can just draw your attention to page 4, item E, and I'm just going to read it out loud in case you don't have this handy. Each threat assessment team must respond within 24 hours when school is in session. And just taking that sentence, if school is in session and there is a threat, why are we giving them 24 hours to respond? And again, our name and our approval is on this document. And so I just felt that maybe if we just had a little time, that this is just one example, but if we just had a little time to go through this, and if you want to do it as an amendment, that's fine, but it still needs to be put on a workshop so that we can amend it. But again, how do you stand up and say, oh, well, we gave them 24 hours. We heard about the threat, but they didn't have to respond for 24 hours. I can't support something like that.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yeah, I mean, listening to what I'm hearing from the time sensitivity and the amendment possibility, out of respect for Ron, because obviously he didn't get it till now, we could approve it tonight, but I think at our workshop, we should definitely discuss an amendment that we could do to deal with these kind of issues like Dr. Marks is bringing up. Therefore, we don't hold it up, but we do have a chance at our workshop to deal with it. So I would approve something like that, but I'd like to make sure it's on our workshop.
No problem.
Commissioner Landman.
I second that. I agree. We should approve it and move forward to have it in the workshop and go through it thoroughly.
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion for approval
Motion.
of item H, made by Commissioner Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Landman. Before asking the clerk for a roll call vote, Mr. Attorney, what both the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion stated is they want this brought to the workshop and the potential of being able to add an amendment to it. So I
That's
don't know how to get that in other than in the city clerk's notes.
Right, that'll be reflected in the minutes.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other commissioner would like to speak to it before I ask the clerk to do a roll call vote? Okay, then I'll ask the city clerk for a roll call vote on item H.
Commissioner Landon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes,
The motion passes.
thank you. And the last item is item I. I'm going to ask the attorney to read it, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, accepting and adopting in principle, subject to annual revision and authorization, the City of Aventura Capital Improvement Program document for fiscal year 2021 to 2025, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to carry out the aims of this resolution and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I please ask for a motion of approval of this resolution? Made by Commissioner Neurosky, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinberg. I'm going to request our city manager, Mr. Wasson, to explain.
Thank you, Mayor. And the reason I pulled this was really just to give the public a chance to hear it and if they wanted to make comment on it. For the public, our commission passes each year a capital improvement plan, which is a basic planning document that accounts for all the major capital projects that we do in the city, as well as major equipment purchases for the police department and various other activities that we do in the year. We come to that budget by looking at expenses and revenues and generally looking at the property value of the city. This year, we're proposing a CIP budget of $3,271,585, of which $1,421,555 will come from the general fund. Some of the things that we spend on, that we do with the money from the CIP plan, in the Parks Department, we plan on installing in Peace Park a bathroom facility and taking care of replacing some benches. For transportation, we plan on spending just a little over $604,000 on resurfacing roadways, doing some solar lit crosswalks. We're going to add 2 new bus shelters and put in LED lighting in all the existing bus shelters. As far as stormwater, we plan on replacing a section of pipe on 29th Place, which will dramatically increase the capability or the capacity of water removal from that area, which is a constant flooding condition when we have excessive rains. We spend money in public buildings to replace some air conditioning and do just general maintenance on our buildings. And then on the capital purchasing side, the police department, we're going to be buying 9 new police cars, which is something we normally do. We'll be equipping them. We'll be installing new and 5 cars, replacing the video with upgraded video capability. We'll be purchasing 25 ballistic vests to replace older ones. We'll be purchasing some taser guns. We'll also be buying some mobile license plate readers, which gives us the ability to look at cars as they drive around the community and spot them if they're stolen or they're wanted for any crime that they have committed. And we'll also be improving some of our SWAT team radio equipment for communications. Those are just some of the things that we spend on every year. As I said, the capital improvement plan, it's a 5-year plan, and that's what it is. It's a way for us to plan now and into the future where we might see that we might have to either budget specifically for or just replace things that become old and outdated.
Mr. City Manager, we did workshop this item, didn't we?
Yes, we workshopped and it was
through-
approved. Yes.
We went through it pretty thoroughly. So,
Just so you know, I didn't mention this, but it is a balanced budget where there is no money to come out of reserves. All the money that's going into this budget is accounted for, and we're not overspending.
okay. Let me ask if any member of the commission has any questions or comments. Seeing as there are none, I'm going to open the item for public comment and request the city clerk to review the procedures for members of the public that wish to provide comments, if there are any.
If there's any members of the public that would wish to comment on this item, that's item 5I on the consent agenda. I need you to tap the screen on your smartphone or tablet to raise your hand at this time, or on your phone, press *9 in order to raise your hand. Mayor, I don't see any comments at this time.
Okay, then I'm going to close the item to public comment. And I'm
Mayor?
going to ask Commissioner Landman.
Yes. I just want to say thank you to our city manager and our assistant city manager for making that bathroom possible at Peace Park. I know many parents will be very happy, so truly appreciate it. And it's going to be a great addition to that park. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk again for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes,
Motion passes.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that brings us to our zoning hearings, the quasi-judicial public hearings. Mr. Attorney, am I correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. I'm going to request that our attorney read the procedures for the quasi-judicial hearings.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we have two items on the quasi-judicial portion, item 6A and 6B. Item 6B will be taken first before item 6A. The quasi-judicial procedures require that the City Commission decide the matter based on the evidence presented and to determine and judge the application based on the criteria that is set forth in the code and discussed in the staff report. The quasi-judicial statement included as item 6 is incorporated into the record. As to the item 6A that we'll be getting to second, that was considered June 9th previously, so all of the testimony that was provided at that time will be incorporated into the record.
Can we, Mr. Attorney, can we focus on the item B?
Yes, I just needed to read further the quasi-judicial statement, and then I'll proceed to be okay. After I do that, the city clerk would administer the oath.
I'll hand, yes.
Yes.
We'll go through it just like we're supposed to.
Right, thank you, Mayor. Please be advised that the following items, item 6A and 6B, are quasi-judicial. If you wish to object or comment upon any of these two items, please inform the mayor when she requests public comments. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be under oath or affirmation. Each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the commission to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak. Procedures may be obtained from the city clerk. Mayor, would you like me to read item B at this time, the resolution?
Please read item B, and then I'm going to request the clerk to swear in those wishing to offer testimony on 6B only.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, when we do the oath, could you have the clerk swear in all witnesses on both items? So we'll have one oath.
I was preferring not to, sir. I would do it.
That's fine. That's fine, Mayor. Item 6B, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, granting conditional use approval to permit the sale and service of beer, wine, champagne, and liquor-infused gelato at Quorum Gelato in Aventura Mall, Kiosk 2034 at 19501 Biscayne Boulevard, City of Aventura, providing for conditions of approval and providing for an effective date.
Can I please have a motion for the approval of having booze-flavored ice cream? Made by
I'll motion that.
Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Landman. I'm going to request the Community Development Director, Joanne Carr, present the staff report. Attorney Waldman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to have the city clerk at this time administer the oath to the witnesses for this item, 6B. Thank you.
If you're going to be speaking for item 6B, I need you to raise your hand and be sworn in at this time. That includes any members of the public who are speaking on item 6B. Raise your hand and be sworn in at this time. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to ask Ms. Carr to please present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been sworn in. I would like to enter the staff report into the record. The applicant, Gelato LLC, is requesting conditional use approval pursuant to sections 4-2A and B of the city code to permit sales and service of beer, wine, champagne, and liquor-infused gelato at a kiosk on the second floor of the Aventura Mall. Staff is recommending approval of the application with the conditions listed in the staff report. The kiosk is located on the second floor of the Aventura Mall at the retail approach to Nordstrom's. The kiosk menu includes appetizers, sandwiches, quiche, salads, pastries, coffee, tea, and gelato. The layout plans for the kiosk are attached as Exhibit 4 to the staff report, and pictures are attached as Exhibit 5. Chapter 4 of the City Code requires that establishments that sell and serve alcoholic beverages be at least 1,500 feet from another establishment that has a liquor license and not exempted by code, and at least 2,500 feet from a school or place of worship. The City Code does allow an exemption to these distances for restaurants, but that exemption does not include this type of kiosk. The liquor survey submitted by the applicant shows 6 establishments with a liquor license within 1,500 feet, 1 religious facility, and 1 school within 2,500 feet. Therefore, conditional use approval is required for this service. The liquor survey is attached as Exhibit 6 to the staff report. Staff has reviewed the application using the standards of review for conditional uses in Section 3173C of the City Code and finds that those criteria have been met. Public notice has been provided in accordance with Section 3171 of the City Code, and no comments have been received to date. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Let me ask the applicant if the applicant has any comments at this time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission, staff. Mickey Marrero from Burkhardt, Riddell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapinas here on behalf of the applicant, Gelato. So very quickly, Madam Mayor, this application is for within the Aventura Mall, where there are already several establishments, restaurants that do serve alcohol. This is a novel concept, and what makes it unique is there's this really cool gelato ice cream that is infused with alcohol, very small percentages, sort of like a beer or a glass of wine. At all times that alcohol will be served at the establishment. There will be food available. So it is really like a restaurant. It's not like a bar. And as Joanne mentioned, there's some great dishes, avocado toast, quiches. It'll be a wonderful addition to the expansion area of the mall. And it's, for those that might recall back when we used to go places, this replaces the bar creme that was previously at the same kiosk. So it replaces another very similar use. The novel concept is why we're here before you. And with that, happy to answer any questions you may have. We have no issues with staff's conditions to the approval, which obviously ensure that the use will be administered responsibly and follow all local and state laws. Thank you.
I have one question. Is this kiosk currently built and operating?
It's currently built. It was Bar Creme was the previous operator. So this is gonna be a new provider replacing, a new operator. And the
Yes, I'm asking, have they been in business for a couple of months supplying gelato with?
Oh, no, this is
No?
new. This is pending this approval. Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Shelley?
Yeah, seeing as this is alcohol, how do you, I mean, ice cream gelato is an attraction to kids. What's going to be happening in terms of how they check the age, et cetera? Because obviously they can't serve to minors. So what do they do in a case like that when it's gelato?
Like in any restaurant, the operator will train his staff, and Joanne has made sure that in the approval, staff will be trained. All products that contain any alcohol, whether it be a glass of wine or the gelato infused gelato, will be only given to folks that are 21 and over. ID will be required, and staff at this establishment will all be required to go through alcohol service training. And obviously their licenses all depend on it. Just like any restaurant, they will be all in the same room.
Anyone else? Commissioner Mizrahi? Wait a minute, there's a lot of background noise.
Joanne, this is not me, the background noise. Somebody else.
Okay.
Try again to talk.
Joanne, so this would work like the caviar, the kiosk, like the caviar kiosk in the mall?
Yes,
Would it
it's
be the same concept?
same concept.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Weinberg.
Yeah. Precedent has long since been set. I think maybe Joanne needs to mute. I can see her flashing. I think the precedent's long since been set. We've granted similar to other establishments. So I think that this is something that we really are not going to say no to. Obviously, we want them to be careful with checking IDs. I just want to know, if not for the virus, would we all be having samples right now, Mickey?
I don't know that I'm allowed to bring alcohol into City Hall, but, you know,
Gelato's allowed.
I would love for you all to enjoy. Well, we certainly hope that you all enjoy the establishment once you're all able to go and enjoy places outside of your home again.
Anyone else on the commission? Okay, I'm going to open this item for public comment.
Any members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please tap your screen and raise your hand at this time, or press *9 if you are on a phone in order to raise your hand. Again, this is for item 6B, if you have any comments on this item. Mayor, I'm not seeing any comments at this time.
Okay, I'm going to close the item for public comment, and I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg,
Yes.
and Mayor Weissman.
Yes,
The motion passes.
thank you. I'm now going to ask the city attorney to read the resolution for item A.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, granting conditional use approval pursuant to Section 31-144C2I of the City Code for an increased height of 12 stories or 200 feet, where the City Code permits a maximum height of 12 stories or 120 feet. Granting conditional use approval pursuant to Section 31-144C2M of the City Code to permit a floor area ratio of 1.99, where the City Code permits a maximum floor area ratio of 1.61 for the development of an office and bank building located at 3050 Aventura Boulevard in the city, providing for recordation and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the city clerk, please, to swear in any people on the phones or computers that wish to address or make comments to this item.
Okay, anybody who would like to make a comment on item 6A, members of the public, in addition to the presenters, I need you to raise your right hand and be sworn in at this time. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask for a motion for approval of the resolution. Made by Commissioner Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Dr. Linda Marks. I'm going to request the Community Development Director, Joanne Carr, to please present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have been sworn in. This conditional use approval request for increased height and increased floor area was tabled to tonight from the June 9th City Commission meeting to review and address public comments. The staff report was entered into the record at the public meeting of June 9th. There are no changes to the staff report except to reference the public comments which have been subsequently received and provided to the City Commission. For information, I'd like to provide some background to this application. The owner, Safra Bank, submitted for site plan approval in December of 2019, my apologies. The building has been designed to achieve LEED Gold certification, and LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is the most widely used green building rating system. It provides a framework for healthy, high-efficient, cost-saving green buildings. LEED certification from the U.S. Green Building Council is a recognized symbol of sustainability, achievement, and leadership. The overall general benefits of LEED construction are reduced resource consumption and resource conservation. LEED components such as rainwater management, outdoor and indoor water use reduction, renewable energy production, enhanced indoor air quality strategies, and low emitting materials are just some of the green building components that have been included in this building and site design. The development plans and traffic study prepared by the owner's architect, structural engineer, civil engineer, and landscape architect, as well as their traffic engineer, were reviewed by and comments provided from internal staff, and that's planning and zoning, police department, public works transportation, building, capital projects, code compliance, and by the city's consultants, the civil engineer, traffic engineer, architect, landscape architect, and planner. This review, resubmittal, and comment process was repeated twice after the initial review. The owner was responsive to all staff comments and made the plan revisions suggested, and this is the normal process that a site plan does go through. The placement of the building was designed to be as far away as possible from the neighboring condominium. It's approximately 235 feet away. The owner also provided studies that are not specifically required by the city code. That's the sun shadow study and the sun glare study. City staff had asked for these studies to ascertain impacts on the neighboring residential building and to make sure any impacts were mitigated. The initial sun shadow study showed that a shadow would be cast on a small portion of the pool deck for an hour and a half on the day of the year that the longest shadow is cast. The applicant has advised that after discussion of concerns with the neighboring building association, the study has been refined using specific survey and elevation data, and now shows no shadow will be cast on the building or the pool. The initial sun glare study showed some glare to the south side of the neighboring building during the winter months, and the owner designed shading devices on the building to mitigate this effect. Again, after discussion of concerns with the neighboring building association, the applicant has advised that the study has been refined and shows less sun glare with the new development as compared to the existing building. Both the refined studies have been provided to the City Commission and to the association's attorney, are incorporated into the record and placed in the application file. The development plans submitted comply with the city code with two exceptions. The proposed height of 200 feet, where 100 feet are is permitted by code, and the floor area ratio of 1.99, where a floor area ratio of 1.61 is allowed for 12 stories. However, the city code does provide that both this increased height of up to 200 feet and the increased floor area up to 2.0 may be allowed in this zoning district through the conditional use approval process in section 3173 of the city code. Public notice of this hearing was given in accordance with section 3171 of the city code. This section requires newspaper publication of a public notice and posting of a sign on the property with the time and date of the hearing and the nature of the application. The publication and posting are to be done no later than 10 days before the hearing. A courtesy notice containing that same information may be mailed to all property owners of record within a 300-foot radius of the property. The public notice was published on May 26, and that's 15 days before the initial hearing. The hearing sign was posted on the property, and the courtesy notice was mailed on May 27th, and that was 14 days before the initial hearing. We did have the first request to review the development plans, and that was received from the Condominium Association on June the 1st. The plans were provided and reviewed on June the 2nd. The development plans and the complete conditional use approval file was provided electronically to the Condominium Association attorney on June the 5th. Plans were also emailed to an individual residence. And then since the hearing on June the 9th, other residents have requested plans and documents. The staff has promptly responded to all public record requests. In addition to plans and documents, information has been provided to residents related to traffic patterns, traffic study, method of underground construction, storm drainage the zoning site development standards and green building program. One resident has come into the government center and has reviewed both the site plan and conditional use application files. An application for conditional use is evaluated using the general standards of review in section 3173C of the city code. Those standards require 7 criteria to be applied and met. The staff report that was included in the June 9th meeting agenda details those standards of review and concludes that each of the criteria were met. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the application with the conditions listed in the report. A number of comments from neighbors have been received and placed in the application file, and I'd like to incorporate all of the comments received to date into the record. The concerns expressed by letter of June 9th from the association through its attorney include obstruction of views, additional traffic and street noise, peace and enjoyment disturbance, shadows over the pool, negative impact on the building's insulation and increasing electrical costs, construction debris, flying debris from the rooftop during the windstorms, causing damage to older buildings or older windows in the building. A further letter was received from the association attorney yesterday on July the 6th and expresses the following additional concerns. That the virtual meeting with the applicant and the attorney on June the 30th did not allow adequate opportunity to investigate and analyze comments, flooding, telecommunication interference, wind impact, hazard to fire response due to increased traffic, building should be the height permitted by code, impacts of construction, building design is out of character with other buildings. So those were the comments received from the attorney acting on behalf of the association. We've also received comments from the Via Dorada Association with opposition to the increased height and floor area and concerns that this approval could set a precedent for other B2 properties of the area. The Via Dorada is directly north of the and neighboring the Bonavita condominium. Then we have concerns expressed from individual owners and other residents, and they include that the new building will create flooding, obstruction of view, shadow study, shadows on the pool, damage by construction, increase in traffic, decrease in property value, dust, window stress, effect on building paint and exterior, building equipment noise, construction noise not consistent with community character, wind tunnel effect, accuracy of plans and studies, and again, effect on other B2 zone properties. One resident has submitted an online petition objecting to the development. The petition was submitted yesterday afternoon. It has been provided to the City Commission, is incorporated into the record and placed in the application file. The applicant's attorney has advised that he met with the Bonavita Condominium Board representatives and their attorney on June 30th and has provided a report addressing those concerns that arose from that meeting by letter of July 3rd. The meeting was provided to the City Commission and to the association attorney, is incorporated into the record and placed in the application file. And I will be happy to answer any questions. The city's civil and traffic engineering consultants are also here to answer any of City Commission's questions. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the applicant if they have any comments at this time. Applicant.
Hear me? Sorry, the video was not turning on. Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the Commission. Again, for the record, Mickey Marrero from the law firm of Burkhardt, Riddell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tappanis, here on behalf of 3050 Aventura Boulevard, LLC, the applicant for this conditional use. Joanne gave you all a lot of really important information. What I'd like to do is just summarize some of the more important items, and I would like to say we do have a few other folks that would also like to make brief remarks. They include, and in this order, Rob Harrison from Foster's and Partners, our design architect, which you heard from last month. Henry Eiler, who is our urban planner that provided an expert report for you all. It's in the record. My partner, Jeffrey Burkow, and Luz Weinberg, who is our impact mitigation consultant, who's been very helpful in this process. With that, I want to just reiterate what David said earlier. I want to incorporate whatever we had provided at the June commission meeting into the record. I don't believe you'll want us to do that entire presentation again, but that is now in the record, and all documentation and testimony of that hearing is still in the record. What I want to make sure is clear, in any conditional use approval or any quasi-judicial hearing, staff report constitutes substantial competent evidence to address the criteria and for you to rely on to make a decision that's consistent with your code and consistent with your right to make an approval on this item. As you know, staff has unequivocally recommended in favor of this application for a number of reasons, including all of what Joanne said before. It's been a pretty exhaustive review. You all know that your city takes a much more detailed approach to site plan approval than I would say almost any city in Dade County. It's really exhaustive. It provides the applicant an opportunity to address almost every possible concern. And in many months, we were able to achieve that with our team and your wonderful staff. Specifically, the items I want to incorporate again into the record, I submitted to you all at the end of last week a letter summarizing our June 30th meeting with the association and really some of the primary issues that were addressed. As to those, Rob Harrison is going to go into a little bit more detail on a couple of them. I also want to reference Mr. Eiler's urban planner report that he prepared and was submitted into the record yesterday, and also a letter that we prepared in my office further addressing the city's CUP criteria and providing additional information as to how this application complies with all of those criteria and incorporates several elements of your comprehensive plan, which Mr. Eiler will go into a little bit more detail about. I want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to take the additional time to address concerns raised by our neighbors. We believe we did a pretty exhaustive job of addressing their concerns. They gave us a list of 18 items. Our team went through it, and at our meeting, we really tried to answer everything. I will tell you there's a couple of items that we just couldn't address. There are things that are never considered at this level of an application. In 21 years of doing this, I've never had to address the impact of a building on cell phone reception or TV reception. I don't have an answer to that or a way to answer that. And we couldn't also answer, I don't have an appraiser on my team to tell them exactly how their properties will improve or decrease in value. It's not something that's part of your criteria or really to be considered. Everything else, I feel that we tried to address. Yeah, I thought we had a very productive meeting with the association, and we did really the best we could to address all of their concerns. I do want to hit upon two other areas that have come up later. They include construction time. I've seen a lot of concern about the timing of construction. We hope the project will take about 2 years. It may take a little more, but frankly, the request that is before you today is not impacting the construction time at all. Despite the fact that it's 200 feet, the building is 12 stories. It's not a concrete structure, and therefore it's really built like a Lego. Just because one story is 20-something feet or 40 feet, it's still a piece of steel and a piece of glass. So the timing of construction is in no way impacted. I mean, literally zero impact based on the additional size. And the 12 stories still are the 12 stories permitted by the code. So all the other concerns really are not really germane. The height, it's a bigger building, no question. It will not make the construction any longer. And because we've chosen to move the building further back away from the property, it's actually, Joanne said it's 200 and something feet away from the property, but it's 350 feet away from the building. Because we moved it further away and we're not using concrete, we're using steel and glass primarily, the impacts of dust and things of that nature will be far mitigated to what the normal construction would be. So with that, I want to just again, make sure that you're aware that you have more than substantial competent evidence to approve this application. We are here to answer any questions that may arise, and I appreciate you give us an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. And with that, I'd like Rob Harrison to say a few words. After him, Henry Eiler will speak, then my partner Jeff Burkow, and finally Ms. Weinberg. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Commissioners, Lady Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to present our ambitious proposals again. I am really going to focus on two items. At last month's hearing, particular concern was expressed about the glare and about shadow. So I will be going through that in a little bit more detail. I'll be amplifying what Joanne has already expressed in her introduction to this. We have undertaken further extensive studies using finite surveyed data as opposed to the desktop studies that we had before you at the previous presentation on the 9th of June. And I want to take you through the results of those. If you have access to it, that would start on page 15 of the document that we submitted. To start with glare. Glare is comprised of three elements. One is the direct influence of the sun itself. Second is reflection from surroundings, and that includes reflection from the ground surface. And third, reflection from our proposal. The analysis that we've undertaken, the studies that we've done, look at all three of those, combine them together to give an overall result. And I can helpfully let you all know that the results are that our proposal shows a reduction over the existing building, a reduction from 22.7% down to 15.7% due to the introduction of our scheme. If trees are taken into account, the trees that surround the property of the Bonavida condominium, if those trees are taken into account, there is further significant reduction in the degree of glare that's provided. The analysis that we've done, we've laid out quite comprehensively on the pages 15, 16, and 17 of the report that we gave you. I now want to move on to the solar analysis that we've done, which is indicated on page 18 of the document. I would reiterate what we said at the time and what others have said. It is not a requirement that we undertake that solar analysis, but under the suggestion of the city, we did do so. And we used the code requirements that are in place were our site to have been within a residential area. So we have used that code requirement in order to do our analysis. And we can confirm, again, using surveyed data as opposed to the desktop information that we previously had. So as built surveyed data, we can confirm that our proposal casts no shadow on the condominium building, it casts no shadow on the pool, and it casts no shadow on the pool deck. I can't be any clearer with that, and I can merely just reiterate how much I thank you all for the opportunity to undertake this further. It enabled us to do it in a much greater degree of detail and in a much more finite degree of analysis. We're delighted with the results, and we hope that the neighbours are too. Those were the only items that I wish to draw everybody's attention to. I don't want to reiterate the presentation. You've heard it from me several times before, as recently as last month. So thank you. I will now pass back to Mickey so he can refer on to others. Of course, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
And we thank you, and I think, Mickey, if I heard correctly, it's Mr. Eiler now?
That's correct, Henry Eiler. Henry?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes?
Can you see me?
Nope.
Starting.
Now we see you.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the Commission, Community Development Director, City Clerk, and members of the public. It is really an honor to be with you this evening. I've been retained by the applicant, 350 Aventura Owner LLC, to render a professional opinion with regard to the consistency of the proposed 12-story Safra Bank building located at 3050 Aventura Boulevard with the city's comprehensive plan and the conditional use criteria contained in the Aventura land development regulations. I'll skip the background part of my report since you've already gotten pretty much all of that from the staff report sources. Moving right to the conditional use criteria, section 3173C lays out 7 criteria as the Community Development Director mentioned. The first one is that the proposed use, that is a business office, shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan. And my opinion is that the proposed development is in compliance with and facilitates the implementation of the city's comprehensive plan. I have a number of land use goals, objectives, and policies outlined in my report. I'll just focus on 2 or 3, but I will list them all. First of all, your land use goal to provide the best possible distribution of land use and services to meet the physical, social, cultural, and economic needs of the present and future populations of the city. I feel that this project is consistent with that, and I have my opinion in my report. It is also consistent with the business and office land use definition in your comprehensive plan. The business and office use is completely consistent with that, as it has been for many, many years that this building has had business and this site has had business and office use on it. Land use policy 1.5, I believe it's also consistent with that policy. Land use objective 3 states that the future land use plan shall emphasize concentration and intensification of development around centers of activity, development of well-designed communities containing a variety of uses, housing types, and public services renewal and rehab of blighted areas. As previously stated, this area has been planned by both Miami-Dade County and the city of Aventura for the land use pattern we see today, which is business and office uses on the 350 parcel and the parcel to the south, the commercial shopping plaza to the west, the resort hotel facility to the east, and the high density residential condominium development to the north. This pattern provides a variety of uses, housing, and services to the neighborhood and residents. The proposed development is in compliance with and facilitates the implementation of this land use objective. Moving on, I also feel it's consistent with land use objective number 4, land use policy 4.1, and land use policy 1.6, and I'll go over 1.6 just briefly. It states when evaluating compatibility among proximate land uses, the city shall consider such factors as the character and function of the surrounding neighborhood, consistency with the goals, objectives of the comprehensive plan, specific neighborhood and redevelopment plans, and then a long list of things, noise, lighting, shadows. There's quite a list, including heights, bulk, and scale in that, and also buffering in that policy. In my opinion, I state that the compatibility of the proposed use, and remember, we're talking about the use with the surrounding neighborhood, has been discussed previously herein in my report and is well established. This land use pattern in the neighborhood has been in place for over 20 years. The project is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. There is no evidence this project will produce excessive noise, lighting, shadows, which we've discussed, glare, which has been discussed, vibration, or odor. Level of service standards of the city will be maintained with the project, and the applicant is providing parking at or above city requirements. The 12-story height is permitted in the B2 zoning district. The new bank building will also be set back much further from the 17-story residential condominium across Aventura Boulevard than the existing bank building, thus expanding the buffer between these uses. I feel that the development is in compliance with this land use policy. And then finally, I believe it's in compliance with land use policy 6.2 and land use objective 11. Getting to the criteria number 2, that is the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the proposed use shall not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. I've seen no evidence from all the records I've been provided and also researched that this project will be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. The compatibility of the project with the neighborhood, as I said, has been well established. The land use pattern has been in place for many years, and level of service standards will be maintained. Criteria 3, the proposed use shall be consistent with the community character of the immediate neighborhood of the proposed use. I pretty much addressed this in some of the other criteria, but we found that this is a compatible use for many years in this area. That is office and business. The office and business use on this parcel has been on county land use maps as well as the city's map when it was incorporated, and is clearly consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the 12-story height limit is consistent with the maximum height that is permitted in the B2 zoning district. Criteria 4 says that the project basically will meet all level of service standards, and it's already been established that the level of service standards will be maintained. Criteria 5, adequate measures exist or shall be taken to provide ingress and egress to the proposed use in a manner that minimizes traffic congestion in the public streets. As indicated by staff, the project meets the city's level of service standards for roads. The project and the city staff have located ingress and egress driveways for the project in order to minimize traffic type of congestion in the area. I feel that the project is in compliance with this criteria. Criteria 6 is that the establishment of the use shall not impede the development of surrounding properties and uses permitted in the zoning district. I found no evidence that it would impede development, and in fact, in my view, I think it might actually be an incentive for maybe other properties to look at some of their older buildings as well. Criteria number 7 and final criteria, I know you're waiting for this. The design of the proposed use shall minimize adverse impacts, including visual impacts of the proposed use on adjacent property through the use of building orientation, setbacks, buffers, landscaping, and other design criteria. The proposed Stafford Bank building is oriented to minimize the visual impacts of the building, but at the same time express an iconic design that will stand out in the future urban design palette of Aventura. It is set back much further from the residential condominium to the north than the current bank building. And thus it's expanding that front buffer yard. The building design features a narrower shape at the bottom, which will allow for more open space. The developer has submitted the sun glare study, which you've gone over this evening, and it should not have an impact on the neighboring residential building. I feel the project is consistent with this criteria. In conclusion, I feel that the proposed building and the continuation of the business and office use is in compliance with the city's comprehensive plan and the 7 criteria for conditional use approval in the Aventura land development regulations. I'd be glad to answer questions, and I'll be here for that.
Thank you, Henry.
I think the next person is our former commissioner, Luz Weinberg, and welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. You'll see me in a moment. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor and commissioners. Yes, start my video. Hold on. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Commissioner Landman and the entire commission, actually, for last month asking that we do secure a meeting with our neighbors, which is when Safra Bank contacted me. As you know, that is my background and experience. So Mickey Marrero, our architect of record, Kurt Danwolf, and myself met with the Bonavita Board of Directors and attorney last Tuesday, June 30th, as Joanne mentioned, and in a room that we secured at the Residence Inn right here in Aventura on Country Club Drive. The meeting was held, of course, with all the social distancing guidelines, and our design architects in London, as well as our local engineering team, were also joined via Zoom. As Mr. Murrow mentioned, and earlier, we enumerated the list of concerns and impact concerns that our neighbors have, and we went over them over a period of 90 minutes, one by one, each of them individually, and if I may add, in my humble and professional opinion, satisfactorily. And with an additional commitment of being the responsible neighbor that I've always found that every construction project should be to their neighbors, and that is my pride and my expertise. Now, I'll also add, as an 18-year resident of Aventura and someone who sat in your chair, I'm especially excited about this project that Safra is bringing into our city and actually to Northeast Miami-Dade, the economic positive impact that it brings at such a trying and challenging time as we're all suffering through, both our business community and our residential community. And I thank you for the opportunity to share with you the fact that we are working with our neighbors, and we'll of course continue to work with our neighbors, but as it stands right now, their concerns have been properly addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant finished? Mickey, Mr. Marrero, are you finished with your presentation?
Just for very briefly, less than a minute, I believe my partner Jeff Burkow wanted to make
Sorry.
very brief remarks. And then we will conclude.
Mr. Burkow?
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jeffrey Burkow. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Burkow, Riddell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapinas, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami, and I will be brief. I wanted to tell you that we're pleased to be representing Safra Bank, a world-class banking institution, along with Rob Harrison of Foster and Partners, an international award-winning architecture firm that has locally designed the Apple Store in Aventura Mall, the new Norton Museum in West Palm Beach, and Faena House in Miami Beach. And now Foster and Partners has designed for Safra Bank an iconic and unique, beautiful landmark building that will be sure to put Aventura on the architectural map. Not only will this building bring additional financial benefits to the city in the form of increased jobs, real estate tax revenue, and additional visitors to hotels and stores, but it is designed to achieve LEED Gold certification, which reduces impacts on the environment, creates sustainable buildings, and improves the health of the community. This application has a favorable recommendation from your professional planning staff. It satisfies the code's criteria for conditional uses in 3173. And we ask that you approve this application subject to all of staff's recommended conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And Madam Mayor, that would conclude our case in chief. Should you all have questions or if there's any rebuttal needed, we are all here available to address any of those. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank both of you very, very much. I'm going to now ask if any members of the commission have any questions or comments. We workshopped the item. We had it at our last meeting. It's before us once again. So I'm asking now if anyone in the commission has any questions or comments. Commissioner Shelley, then I saw Commissioner Mizrahi. Commissioner Landman. Okay. Commissioner Shelley.
Yeah. When we tabled this last week at the request, my understanding was the purpose was not because we had any questions, problems with the design, et cetera, but more because there may have been a misunderstanding or a feeling that they should be given more time, the adjacent building to have more time to meet with the developer to see if there wasn't more cooperation, et cetera, because they felt that there wasn't enough notice, et cetera, whatever the case may be. And Joanne, from what I'm hearing tonight, it seems like 99% of everything we've heard from you, you've gotten from their attorneys and from the residents, but they seem to be a wish list of everything and anything, but I don't hear anything regarding how the meeting went, if at all, and if anything was accomplished. And I'm not sure if Mickey, you should be the one to answer, but I get the impression that the only thing that took place in this last few weeks is it gave them a chance to put a wish list together of more things they wanted or felt was wrong with the project. And I'd be curious to see the other side of it. Was there anything positive that came from their side on this, on the meetings you had or the notices? Because I would hate to think that the only thing that we accomplished after waiting all this time and giving them the benefit of the time was that they used it to put together a wish list of what's wrong with the project, rather than what our purpose of extending it was to see if there wasn't something beneficial that could come from the meeting. So that's what I'd like to hear, not all the complaints and problems with the project, but rather, was anything accomplished by the meeting?
I'm happy to respond.
Either you or Ms. Carr.
I'll defer to Mickey if that's okay,
Sure.
Mayor.
Yes, so Commissioner Shelley, yes, there was communication leading up to the meeting, which was held on June 30th. We had asked for a list of concerns so that we could adequately address whatever their questions or concerns were and make sure the appropriate personnel were available to answer those questions. And we did receive, a few days before that meeting, the list. We went through the list, and I felt in my experience, very adequately addressed the questions that were answered. We felt it was productive, frankly, because we understood their issues. Our team was able to further analyze with extensive detail those issues. We did bring in additional members to the team to clarify any concerns. We've offered to make our team available throughout construction with immediate cell phone access to the project manager and the team should there be any issues. We really believe that we have done a very satisfactory job of mitigating what those construction impacts might be. We brought in Ms. Weinberg, who is an expert in this area, to assist with that plan. So we really do feel it was productive, Commissioner Shelley. I would like to make everyone happy, but we really think it was productive and addressed concerns. Additional things were raised. I can't wave a magic wand, but I do feel it was productive, and I hope that everyone finds that's the case. Thank you.
All right, and one other question, Mayor, if I might, to Joanne. In the question, I think there may have been at our last meeting, I just want to clarify something. When the meeting was tabled till tonight, it was tabled over feeling that there may not have been enough notice given, et cetera. Could you clarify the notices of what was given in preparation of our meeting the first time around?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The public notice requirements are in the city code in section 3171. So we're required to publish notice of the public hearing in the newspaper and post a sign on the property that states the date and time of the public hearing and the nature of the application in both the publication and the posting sign. It has to be published and posted no later than 10 days before the hearing. In this case, the public notice was published on May 26th, and that's 15 days before, more than the 10 days required. And the hearing sign and the courtesy notice to everyone within 300 feet was posted and mailed on May 27th, so that's 14 days before the public hearing. And we know that the public notice procedures did the trick, because we had the first request for examination of the development plans from the association on June the 1st.
So there was adequate notice the first time around?
Yes, adequate notice was given.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think it's Commissioner Mizrahi.
Yes, thank you. I have met with Joanne and I revised all the concerns that the neighbors had, and I don't see any valid reason to delay this project. On the contrary, this is a great project for our city, not only for the iconic landmark that it's going to be, but for the impact, the economic impact that will bring to our city. And I don't see why it wouldn't increase the value of the neighbors. So I'm asking to move forward and continue, and let's not delay this project again.
You'll get an opportunity when we vote. Right now, I think we have a couple of commissioners that really, I think someone else was, Commissioner Landman, that still want to talk to it.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, when at last month's meeting, when I asked to table this item, it was because I thought that residents, not that they didn't receive proper notification, but that they maybe didn't get an opportunity to go over their concerns. Now, a month later, after a lot, the meeting and everything that's been presented to us, I feel very comfortable that the Safford Bank and all of its, oh my God, what's the word? The applicant, I'm sorry, that the applicant has gone above and beyond to try to meet, discuss, go over, clarify, and do everything that, they could in their power to really explain, and they even updated some of the studies. So after hearing all of what has been done, seeing the studies and all the materials presented to us, I do feel very comfortable that now, our residents and our community members have had time to to review the information, and whether they agree with it or not, that's something different. But I do feel comfortable now with the fact that we've given the information to our community. So I want to thank the applicant for going above and beyond in everything that has been done within the past month to make sure that information is available to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Weinberg.
Sorry,
Vice Mayor, sorry.
I was trying to put my hand up and it wasn't working. I need a couple of minutes because I feel obligated to respond, because I didn't respond to any of the neighbors. I didn't respond to the applicant either because it's quasi-judicial, and I never not respond. So I want that to be understood. There's a reason why, but I read everything. I visited the site. I walked the site. I drove the site. I read every comment. I read every letter. I read every petition, every report. I had voted yes to table this item last month. I wanted the applicant and the neighbors to have an opportunity to meet. I probably, other than the applicant and the homeowner's attorney, I probably have more experience opposing development than anyone else in this meeting, both personally and professionally as an attorney. I understand where the neighbors are coming from. I can empathize with it. But as the adage goes, be careful what you ask for. You have to understand what the alternatives are. If you win, are you really losing? So there's many misstatements. I believe people have been misinformed. It happens often when people get passionate. And sometimes it's even intentional. Most times it's a good faith mistake. I'm going to tell you that Bona Vita is a wonderful building. I agree with the fact that those that live there say it's iconic. I agree that it was a Morris Lapidus building. And in fact, I spoke to my former father-in-law yesterday about this building. It was actually he, as the senior designer for Morris Lapidus, that sat in an office next to this, down the street from that building, and designed it. And he never misses a chance to opine about how wonderful it is that the great Morris Lapidus gave him the opportunity. So I feel you, probably more than anyone. What I think everyone needs to realize is, for example, several years ago, our commission chambers was filled with residents from Bona Vista, a building down the street, when they heard about a project that we might be approving at that little marina at 34th Avenue. And everyone ran into the commission chambers and said, how dare you change the zoning from park to condominium, when in fact, we weren't changing anything. It was always zoned for condominium. The developer was nice enough to put benches there and allow people to put a sign that said George Berlin Park. George Berlin, one of the founders of Aventura. But everyone was misinformed that somehow we were changing the zoning. Now I see a letter, one letter I read was from an ER nurse, and I thank her for her service and for being on the front lines during this crisis. But she said in her letter regarding this issue, how dare you have changed how dare this commission have allowed a water park across the street from us? So I say to her, if you look for the meeting where the commission approved the water park, you'll never see it, because we didn't, because it didn't need our approval, because across the street from you is zoned recreation, resort, and they are allowed to build what they build up to 60 feet high without our approval. It was misinformation. Now, across the street from you on the other side, I hear people saying, how dare you, now you're going to allow this commercial property. No, it's zoned commercial. And this property owner has the right to build a 12-story building, and we as the commission cannot tell them no. We can't tell them no. They have certain rights that existed prior to the incorporation of Aventura. We incorporated subject to existing zoning. That building they have there That's going to be gone. They've outgrown it. Somebody is going to build a building. And if it's not an iconic building, then it's probably going to be an ugly, nondescript office building. And it might be all concrete. And then you are going to have 3 years of dust. And then you're going to say, oh my God, look at this thing next to us. But you're not going to get no building. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get a single family home. And we can't stop them. All we could do is try to get the best project for this city. More misinformation. How dare you give them increased FAR? Well, it's in our code. We encourage developers to attain LEED status, LEED certification, because it's a good thing for the city. There's never going to be a developer that gets LEED certification that doesn't get bonus FAR. It's not going to happen because we encourage it. The precedent's already been set. This isn't setting the precedent, as some of the letters I read. The precedent's set. If you're going to help the environment, you're going to get a bonus. But again, what about the traffic? What about the traffic? You're going to get the traffic because you live in a condominium across the street from a property that's zoned for 12 stories of offices. And they're going to do it because they want to. Now, do you want a beautiful 12 stories that's iconic, that's a value added to your neighborhood? Or do you want something that you're going to wish wasn't there and you're going to say, wow, why did I fight that to end up with this? You're not going to get nothing. It's not a choice between status quo and this project. It's a choice between this project or a project you're not going to like even more. That's the unfortunate thing. And we can't tell them, no, you can't build your 12 stories. That's the reality. Okay? So I want everyone to understand that. You're going to get that traffic. They seem willing to mitigate it. The fact that they're going to have extra parking spaces is a good thing, not a bad thing, as I read in some of your letters. You want them to put in more parking spaces. That's good. So people aren't driving around wondering where they're going to put their car. Okay? So whether or not you've had accurate information from your attorneys, from your association presidents, I don't know. But I'm telling you, this commission has to allow them to build 12 stories of offices. We're going to try to get the best building we can and a LEED certified building and a tribute to your neighborhood. I love your neighborhood and I love your building. One thing I would ask, because I know what's going to happen. If they're not going to build their building, someone else is going to own that property and they're going to demolish that building and they're going to put something up. That's going to happen and we're not going to stop it. Now, because we can't. I would ask through the attorney, Mr. Marrero or Mr. Burkow, if in fact your client is going to take that building down, would they be willing to save that beautiful mosaic and perhaps donate it to the city of Aventura? Maybe something we can put on the second floor of City Hall. I would hate to lose that artwork. And it would be wonderful if they decided that we can have it. And thank you. I'm sorry I was long-winded, but I think it's important to point out the reality of what we're actually facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want me to respond, Madam Mayor? I can respond later.
You can respond later, or you can at your pleasure.
Well, I would say, I'm sure there's a lot more discussion. I know we've talked about it as a team about that. Mr. Weinberg's request, I haven't had a chance, obviously. And since they're not with me, if you give me just a couple minutes, I'm sure I can speak to my client and confirm, but I think it's a very reasonable request from the Vice Mayor. And I just want to get their confirmation. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
That's fine, and it doesn't have to be at tonight's meeting. Okay, we can take it up. Is there any other commissioner that wants to speak? Okay, I'm going to open this item for public comment. And I will ask the city clerk to review the procedures, please. I can't hear her.
Elisa, you're muted.
You're muted. Can't hear you.
Thank you. Mayor, just to let you know, the attorney for the Bonavita condominium, I'm going to have her speak first. And then we will open to the other people in the public portion of the meeting. As of right now, we have 8 speakers that are waiting to speak after the attorney does speak. And I will just be asking everybody as they are brought into the room to speak if they have been sworn in. If not, I will need to swear them in. But I'm going to start with the attorney, Alessandra. She's going to be shown on your screen here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
That's the Stevelman.
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor, City Commissioners, and staff. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Alessandra Stivelman. I am a shareholder and partner at Eisinger Law, and I'm General Counsel for Bonavita Condominium Association, Inc., which is the entity responsible for the operation of the condominium directly adjacent to the proposed 3050 Safford Bank redevelopment. On behalf of my client, I submitted a PowerPoint and slides with exhibits, which I was hoping to utilize as visuals today. I'm a very visual person, and I think it really helps to understand what we're talking about and what our concerns are. Apparently, that's not allowed. I hope that you have that available. I'm not sure that you do. Yes, no, yes, okay, awesome. If not, I'd be happy to hold it up, and then you can look at that instead of my face, which is probably more appealing. So I'll just go ahead and start it, and I guess if anyone wants me to show the visual, I'll go ahead and do that. And as a background, many of the directors of the board of directors of the association and the residents were at the last hearing on June 9th and expressed their various concerns as to the negative impact of the proposed development. Since then, myself, as you guys have heard, along with the representatives from the association, met with the developer's attorney and several of the professionals working on the case. Although requested by the association, the developer or Safford Bank did not attend the meeting itself. While we are grateful for Mr. Moreau's time and good faith in meeting with us, unfortunately, the meeting was not as productive as we had hoped, as many of the concerns were blown off and not addressed as being not required by code. As I mentioned in my letter submitted to the city yesterday, which I believe you guys have received, many of the answers were that is not required by code to a lot of the concerns that we raised. For example, as Mr. Moreau has said, it takes the same amount of time to construct a 100-foot building or 200-foot building. We learned that no study and no information has been provided as to the wind impact. And there's been no data on the potential impact in the event of a hurricane to the surrounding properties due to the odd shape of the proposed building. We also learned that there's been no analysis of the potential impact on the property values. And as I'm sure you will hear from some of the residents, and you've received some letters from some individuals that have actually had properties under contract that are now backing out or on hold as a result of this project. The association didn't have enough time to conduct an appraisal, and one was not conducted by the applicant either. Again, because not required by code. We also learned that the stormwater and drainage issues is still unknown and could be extreme in nature. There is already a huge stormwater issue that impacts the association and the surrounding community, and there's some pictures that was submitted as part of the slides that you can reference as well. After the meeting with the developer and with the developer's representatives and the attorney, we asked for additional time to address some of these issues. We received this solar study, which I'll reference in a second, on Friday evening. There were additional documents that were submitted Friday, but the association did not have sufficient time to really review everything. We understand, as Vice Mayor Weinberg has stated, we're not sitting here, we're not here via video, opting for no project. We understand that they have a right to a 12-story building, but they are asking for increased height, and they are allegedly allowed increased floor area as a result of doing a green building. And we believe that the impact of this increased height is enough for you guys to please reconsider and listen to what we have to say. It seems as if you already had your mind done and your mind made before even allowing us to speak. So if you can just give me a few minutes and listen to what we have to say and some of the concerns and reconsider the potential impact, I'd really appreciate it. Bonavita, as you guys may know, was built in 1973, and it was the first mid-rise in Aventura, or what later became Aventura. It was designed by the iconic architect, Morris Lapitude, the same one that did the Fontainebleau Hotel, Eden Rock Hotel, and redesigned the Lincoln Road. And if you're looking at the slides, that's Exhibit A, B, and C. Bonavita is 17 stories. And I think it's pretty cool because we attached some really old pictures which show where Bonavita was as the city of Aventura evolved. Bonavita is located on the boundary line between residential and commercial zoning. So it's directly across the street from the proposed new Safra building, and that's shown in Exhibit D. The profile of the association is essentially half of the full-time residents, approximately 31% renters, a lot of snowbirds. There's a lot of rental that goes on in this condominium. And they're 41% senior citizens. You can see the analysis and the table that we put together on the slide. So you can see the makeup of the community and the individuals. This is not an extremely wealthy condominium. There are no impact windows. The condominium has a lot of work to be done. They've been working very hard. They recently redid concrete restoration and painted the building at a very high cost, and they're very concerned of the impact that this new building is going to have on them. When it comes to the character of the neighborhood, the applicant stated that there are other tall buildings in the area and that the proposed development is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. That's simply not the case. Please take a look at the views that we provide and the pictures from the Bonavita skyline and from the roof deck, which is one of their greatest amenities. JW Marriott is the closest that's similar in height and floor to the Bonavita condominium. The other residential buildings that were noted in Mr. Morero's letter to the city that was submitted, I guess, July 3rd, I only received a copy of it yesterday, they're not immediately adjacent, and they're inside of the circle, as we refer to it. They're not on the boundary of residential and commercial properties, the B2 zones. In the past 20 years, the city has grown. The association is not opposed to change. They've seen a lot of really great progress being done, and the residents recognize that. But as you can see in slide I and J, you know, the building to the south, the view hasn't changed much, and this proposed development is going to be significantly taller in height than any of the other commercial or residential buildings in that area. And the applicant alleges in his letter as well, in Mr. Morero's letter, that there's not going to be an detrimental endangerment to public health, safety, or general welfare of the residents in the community. And we disagree. We provide various examples that I'm going to be going through, that's just not, just because you're building a LEED building. And I am the first one that's, you know, I'm all about green building, but at the same time, they're building gold certified. It's not platinum. And just because they're building a gold certified building doesn't mean there aren't adverse side effects to the adjacent neighborhoods, to the adjacent condominiums, and to the residents. The hurricane and the potential wind impact. One of the main concerns that remains unaddressed by the applicant is the impact that the increased height in combination with the odd shape would result on the adjacent property when a windstorm comes in. I've included, and I think it's very impactful to note, some pictures of damage from prior hurricanes on Bonavita property, right? So this is all from Bonavita. Trees completely uprooted. Ultimately, the city and the applicant don't have the study to provide the assurances that it would be otherwise. There could be very well a wind tunnel. And while Safra's new building would be developed up to code with all impact window and may not suffer at all, Bonavita condominium was built many, many years ago. They don't have impact windows. They don't have the ability to obtain impact windows. And this could create a really bad situation in the event a storm hits. And as we all know, this hurricane season is predicted to be a very busy one, as keeps happening every year as the increase in temperatures in the world. Flooding.
One moment, please.
Sure.
We have a 3-minute time limit, so I'm asking the city clerk if she's informed the people speaking. And since you didn't know, I will let you continue. But I'm going to ask you to try and make it as quick as you can, because that is our procedure. Mr. Attorney, is it not? Can't hear you. Couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, now.
Yes, thank you. It's fine to allow the time you have already for the one who represents a neighboring association, but all the speakers after her will be subject to the 3-minute rule. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll make it as quickly as possible. Tell me if I'm speaking too fast. Okay, so one of the main concerns is flooding. Right now, Bonavita, or what they call, I think it's Bonavita River. When it rains, when there's storm runoff, the entire parking lot gets flooded. I provided pictures. Aventura Boulevard, there's flooding everywhere. And there's really, from what I understand, you can look at Exhibit N, which shows the engineer consulted on behalf of the city for the project on its memorandum dated June 2nd to Ms. Joanne Carr indicated the design of the water, sewer, stormwater was not addressed and shall be provided for building permit for review. So it hasn't been determined that there will be no issues. In fact, it hasn't been addressed. There's no information on the impact that this will have. The applicant alleges that these 2 new injection wells for the disposal of stormwater will improve the levels of service, but there is no documentation to support that assertion. I understand that there was a letter submitted to the city on behalf of Ms. Maria Braswell, who is a former roadway and hydraulics engineer for the Georgia Department of Transportation and also a fellow attorney, and addresses her concern with the stormwater runoff. I know she'll be speaking, so I'll let her address that more specifically, but this is a really big concern for the residents. The architect submitted a revised glare and solar study last Friday. They keep saying that these are great results, that it's fantastic, that they've determined that there is no glare. That is simply not true. They picked a 12 p.m. time, but if you go on the public websites that we were able to find that utilize the same information, and in our documentation that we provided, we utilize the information that's available to the public, and it does show a glare. It does show a shadow. To compare shadow from trees that have been since then cut down that are translucent to the shadow from a building is just not accurate. It's not fair. And the information that they provided from their study, they eliminated a lot of other relevant information that they included in their prior study, which they failed to include in their new updated study. So in a way, they're presenting the evidence, obviously, that is most beneficial to them, but they're failing to include all the pertinent information. And that is why we really ask you to look at this in depth and to really consider the impact on the association. In addition to the sun, shade, glare, reflection study submitted, they haven't been analyzed by a Florida engineer. This is from an overseas architect or engineer that created this based on, I guess it was based on the survey that he obtained. But when you look at it from the public websites that we have available that our residents went on to, 12 o'clock is not when there's going to be the most shade. It's actually at 10:40 a.m. and there is a glare and there is a shade. So for them to sit up here and say that there is actually no impact whatsoever and it's better, it's just simply not true. The comprehensive master plan. In order to grant this conditional use approval, it's necessary that this project be consistent with the comprehensive master plan. And it's more than just a future land use designation for the parcel being business and office. We understand it's a business and office building, but ultimately one of the objectives of the comprehensive master plan, don't know why I'm having trouble saying that, is a protection of the high quality of the residential character of the city. This is a city that is surrounded by residential communities, and ultimately it's going to impact the residents in a very negative way by having this odd-shaped, increased height building directly adjacent to the residential property on the border of the commercial and residential line in the city, and it will establish a precedent for the Wells Fargo building and for all the other bank buildings that now will have to compete with the Safra building, and all at the cost of having this large lobby entrance for Safra and having the residents suffer as a result of that. And then you get to the traffic-get-in, as we like to call it. And ultimately, it's amazing to me that they can state here and say that the impact will be minimal. When you look at the study, how is an increase from, and I believe it was from, hold on, give me 1 second. When you look at the study itself, and it's on exhibit, it's on exhibit U. The proposed use, it's going to increase the trips from 1,780 from 938. That's almost double the current traffic that we have now. Considering that to go into the Safra building, in the traffic study, it was required to use Bonavita's driveway as a U-turn in order for the residents to get there. They're gonna have to do a U-turn on the fire station because there's no other way to access the Safa property. Not to mention that as of now, many people during the high traffic area cut through Bonavita's parking lot in order to avoid the traffic on Aventura Boulevard. Now, if you're talking about double the amount of traffic, what's that going to do to the traffic on the parking lot for these residents that are trying to come home from work that can't even get to their parking lot to go home to their families? How can you say this is not going to have an impact? Has there been any crash studies? Has there been any comments from the fire department? Because ambulances and the fire engines, they have to go through that traffic. And I understand, because we brought this up with Mr. Marrero, that, you know, the fire department gives the okay and emergency vehicles have the access no matter what. But you can't sit here and say that there's not going to be an impact on those emergency vehicles when the traffic is almost double what it is now. So ultimately, there's slides that talk about this. You know, Safa Bank, the same architectural firm, I believe, also proposed another tower that was out of scale in London. And last year, the mayor vetoed the project. It doesn't represent world-class architecture, was what it determined. If you take a look at what they proposed, in a way, we're kind of glad that this wasn't what's being installed in Aventura for the obvious reasons. However, you know, this is Safa trying to create an iconic building at the detriment of the residents, and we believe and we urge the commissioners to look at the impact that it's going to have on your taxpayers and not solely on business development. There is not a lack of evidence to support this. Well, the applicant says that there's a lack of competent or substantial evidence that supports a denial, and we disagree. The fact that there's so many unknowns in regard to wind study, traffic, flooding, stormwater runoff, the fact that we don't have an appraisal to know the impact on the value of those units, that we don't know the impact on emergency vehicles. There are so many detrimental facts that we believe that is sufficient evidence for the commission to at least postpone this to obtain these studies. We understand it's not required by code. We've been told that a million times. We get it, but when you guys are making such an important decision, when you have a petition with hundreds of signatures from surrounding residents, we feel that there is an obligation. You know, lastly, and I'm just gonna wrap this up. I know we're short on time. I see it on your faces. On behalf of the board of directors, its owners, residents, surrounding community, we respectfully request that the city of Aventura either deny the request with the understanding that they have a right to build something, but most importantly, you know, we hereby request that you postpone the vote until such time as these critical tests have been done. Not so much answering questions with, we don't know, that's not typical, it wasn't required by code, but rather, let's get the studies done, let's figure out what the actual impact is gonna be before votes taken on this matter. So please, we respectfully request that you look out for the better interests of your taxpayers and the residents of Aventura, rather than those solely of the wealthy developers. Thank you.
Thank you. And please, Madam Clerk, will you please inform the speakers that it's a 3-minute policy and I need to know how you're going to let me know. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start with the public speakers that have raised their hands. We have 9 speakers at this time. I'm just going to go in the order that they raised their hands. The first speaker is Brenda Friend.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Brenda Friend. Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to provide your comments. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brenda Friend. I live in 100 West Country Club Drive, Unit 1601, the actual building Bonavita right across from the Safa Bank. Yes, I have the unique perspective of being a resident and as well a real estate agent working the Miami circuit. And from each of those perspectives, I would like to express my serious concerns about the proposed Safa project, because I am also the president of the Bonavita Association. I would like to share to the commission about the 2 bad feedbacks I recently received from 3 different buyers currently looking into properties to purchase here in Bonavida. However, immediately after I honestly disclosed about the new commercial Safra building proposed to the city of Aventura, all the 3 of them have decided to suspend any transaction until they see what happens. Why? They have expressed the concerns over building construction that will produce noise, dust, and even more traffic congestion. One of them suspended the purchase of 2 units for his family, being already an owner in Bonavida for over 20 years already. Just this past week, I received a call from a family that currently live in Bonavida for over 5 years, for me to find them a new place outside of our building because they don't want to renew a lease that is front-facing the construction site for the next 2-3 years ahead. People that are looking to buy are concerned that when the building is complete, their beautiful views will be obstructed, traffic issues will be exacerbated, and the overall ambience of the neighborhood will be diminished because of the incongruent nature of the building style. It is my professional opinion that this project is already impacting negatively our community. And I'm experiencing this firsthand, and I in fact have some of those buyers standing by to speak up for us and for themselves. Safra representatives provided no in-depth information or studies of the flooding issues we experienced so I could educate my buyers. I can hardly believe that the new building will help alleviate this issue, and most likely that will be exacerbated. They are building a huge underground 3-level parking garage where all that water will be displaced. We have no answers so far. We already need answers and solutions to the existing severe flooding issues that we have already right now experienced over the 10 years that I've been living here in this building. Further, my concerns as a real estate agent are even more amplified because I do live in the building and represent all my residents here. We do not want 30 months of construction noise, potentially 6 days a week beginning at 7 a.m. This really does impact negatively the over 35% of renters that we have in this building here. And the properties, the owners, they will have problems to rent these units. That's already the value of the appreciation.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
3 minutes.
All right,
Thank
that's
you so
okay.
much.
That's okay, no problem.
Next speaker.
Okay, the next speaker is Leo Reinfeld.
Hello, you hear me?
Hi, I do hear you. Mr. Reinfeld, have you been sworn in?
I was, yes.
Okay, you will have 3 minutes to provide your comments. Please state your name
Okay.
and address for the record.
My name is Leo Reinfeld. I live in the Bonavida building, apartment 508. My window goes straight into the Safra building, okay? Now, I'm gonna make this very short. I'm a photographer, okay? And I invite Mr. Weinberg to come and sit out here in the window any winter he wants to be, okay? And see that this city is already traffic collapsed, okay? I came for the first time into Aventura in 1990. Moved my family here from Venezuela, okay? And this was paradise. The amount of traffic already here is unreal, okay? What is a 7-minute drive from here to I-95 in December is over 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour. The traffic in front of my face is really out of normal in December, January, February, even November. You're adding 1,000 something extra parking spaces. That means 1,000 extra cars per day in this area that is already collapsed. I am just a renter in here. I don't have, my only thing that hurts me is that the owner of this apartment is a terrific, beautiful person, but I'm gonna have to move. This thing starts, I'm moving, I'm out, okay? And I can put money on the table that the value of this building and other buildings around are gonna go down, not up, because Safra made a 12-floor building. Anyway, that was my whole point, okay? The traffic is already collapsed. Somebody said here that they already have their zoning and whatever. I cannot believe that if the people from this city can see that the traffic is already collapsed, okay, that you have to stop totally, that then there's gonna be a rule that no new construction can be done, at least not that big. This is my whole point, okay? Whatever extra minutes I have to say, I give it to the next person coming after me.
Thank you. The next person, City Clerk.
Okay. The next person is Israel Cohn. Israel Cohn, can you hear me?
Hear me?
Hi, yes, we hear you now. Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, you have, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Hello, my name is Israel Khan, and I am the owner of Unit 1507 at 20100 West Country Club Drive. Currently a director at the Bonavida condominium and a resident of Aventura since I was in elementary school. In addition to the comments made by Bonavida attorney, I would like to express my concerns in regards to the actual construction impact that will be generated by the increase from the allowed height of 120 feet to the special request of 200 feet, an increase of FAR. At the June 30th meeting, the applicant representative explained that there is zero impact in terms of construction time due to the increase in height. The demolished and new construction would approximately need 30 months to be built. I challenge these statements and ask that the applicant consult with a qualified general contractor that can properly indicate the impacts during construction. A critical path schedule generated by the contractor would reveal that the building of 120 feet would be developed much quicker and therefore reducing the impact to the residents during construction. The applicant also mentioned that the construction methods that they chose are steel frame, which is different than the typical post-tension high-rise built in South Florida. My concern with this construction method is the delivery of the long steel members, which will require coordination and logistics that are complex with the constraints of the site. I would suggest that the applicant consult again with the general contractor to understand the logistics, especially during the shell construction, and how this would impact traffic. It is very likely that delivery vehicles would generate additional traffic in the Aventura intersection with Country Club Drive, as these long delivery vehicles will need to maneuver to make their deliveries. This is to me the most concerning, as the fire department uses this route every day on their way to help and save Aventura residents that live in Country Club Drive. Delivery trucks will block fire department vehicles if they are not coordinated adequately. And at this time, the applicant does not appear to have looked into this life safety concern. I would like to conclude that my comments come from my experience in the construction industry in South Florida. I hold an architectural degree from Florida International University and currently work as a construction manager and have supervised the development of high rises similar to the one proposed by 3050. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk.
Okay. Our next speaker is Jania Braswell.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Have you been sworn in?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand and be sworn in at this time. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I need you to state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Sure. My name is Maria Jania Braswell. I am a business owner in Aventura. My address is 2900 Northeast 30th Avenue, 8th floor, Aventura, Florida 33180. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. As I said, my name is Maria Jania Braswell. I am a business owner in Aventura. I am an attorney and partner as a law firm, and also I'm a prospective buyer at the Bonavita Condominium Association. Also, I am a former roadway and bridge hydraulics and hydrology engineer for the Georgia Department of Transportation. I would like to congratulate SAFRA. I really like the development and I support development. And I was pleased to see such an impressive and iconic building coming to Aventura. This is a great location, and that's why I want to buy a unit in Aventura, and I already start looking into properties with Brenda Friend, who spoke on behalf of the association. Yet, development has a price, and that's the reason why I took the time to come here tonight. Throughout my 7 years with the Georgia Department of Transportation, I encountered many challenges designing bridges, structures, or even roadways. We often had to change our design due to protected or endangered species, historical or archaeological sites to avoid nuisance to the community. A construction project, it requires plannings, studies, and negotiations to protect the interest of a community of the city. And as an engineer, I can testify that all that is indeed frustrating, but it is indeed necessary. So as a prospective buyer at Bonavita, I have serious concerns with the water runoff in their parking lot. I have seen that parking lot flooded many times. As a former hydraulics and hydrology engineer for the Georgia Department of Transportation, I know that the volume of water discharge is directly proportional to the type of surface, whether if it's a road, grass, dirt, the rainfall intensity, which is nature, we cannot change that, and the drainage area. Here, we know that the construction and grading will exacerbate the existing drainage patterns as it will disturb the surface. Grassed areas will be exposed, will be bare land, compacted dirt will be loose, and etc. And we know that the drainage area will be constricted. Therefore, I really recommend what's being asked by Bonavita and their attorney, that a comprehensive hydraulics and hydrology study of the area be done to mitigate the effects of water discharge, flooding, scour during and after construction. And thereafter, a detailed design of drainage structures, curb and gutter, and scour countermeasures should be implemented. I also would like to assert as a potential, a prospective buyer that I will not.
That's 3 minutes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, thank you for the opportunity.
No, you can finish your sentence, finish your sentence.
I was gonna say, as a prospective buyer, I have no intent whatsoever to buy a unit that's having its view blocked by SAFRA. I think those units will sure enough be devalued, and also.
That's it. I said you can finish your sentence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Edward Weinstein.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Mr. Weinstein, have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have been.
All right, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
Edward Weinstein, 21055 Yacht Club Drive, Aventura, Florida. I basically grew up in the neighboring city of North Miami Beach for my childhood years, and I've watched the City of Excellence develop. I believe prior boards and the current board have done a wonderful job, and staff included. And I came across this project. I do support it. Some of the prior comments that I heard in one of the letters, it was mentioned that this building is out of character. I look at it as setting a new standard for our city, that other buildings will need to compete with it. I think that's a good thing, and I think that will help drive further progress. I believe it has financial benefits. I believe it has aesthetic benefits to the city. And as a resident here, I fully support it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk?
Okay. Our next speaker is McNamee, Bonavita, Penthouse 4.
Hi, good evening.
I have been sworn in.
Yes, I was sworn in.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes.
Okay, good evening. My name is John McNamee, 2010 West Country Club Down Drive, Penthouse 06. I've been an owner of Bonavita since 1993. I'm here tonight to voice my opinion to the request for the conditional use of the approval by Safra Bank. In my opinion, the studies submitted by them for the commission for approval are inaccurate. They fail to address the true impact of a 235-foot building with a 3-story underground parking garage and would have been on its immediate surroundings on our neighbors in the Bonavita. I retired from New York City Police Department, where I worked as a detective investigating crimes and fraud. I'm very familiar with Safra Bank and the office complex at 600 Madison Avenue, Manhattan. As an investigator, I'm keenly aware of the irregularities of the Safra banking practices. Just as recently as May 2020, a cease and desist order was issued from the Department of the Treasury, in which Safra was cited. Safra was charged with, I quote, engaging in violations of law, rules, regulations, including those relating to Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering, compliance.
Mr. Attorney, I need you to weigh in. We're talking to an article. We're not discussing Safra Bank's practices.
That's correct. It's not relevant. It doesn't go, the alleged attacks on character are not part of a land use review.
Well, then I would request under the Freedom of Information Act that any and all contributions and favors that the Safra Bank has provided to any and all members of the City of Ventura government and their families, including job offers, internships, scholarships, or any other incentives of any type of award. In order to level the playing field, people who have been compromised for receiving such gifts should remove themselves from the voting process. It's not fair to the rest of us. If you have taken gifts or you've taken contributions.
Sir, if you have anything else to say, please say it related to the actual project. If not, I don't think anything else has to be said.
And you certainly have the right to make a public records request, and every elected official turns in.
I already have them, Mayor. Thank you. I have them in front of me. I have all, if you want them, I can send them to you so you can see them yourself.
No, you're the one that wanted the information, so I'm telling you, you have every right to do that.
I have it.
Okay.
I have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next.
The next speaker is Michael. Michael? Hello? Michael? Hello? All right, I'm not sure what's going on with that one. Next speaker is Natalia Opolatenko.
Yes, hello?
Hi, Natalia. Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, please provide your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Natalia Opolatenko. My address is 20100 West Country Club Drive, Unit 704, Aventura, Florida. I'm an owner at Bonavita Condominium and a full-time resident. I have lived here since 2013. I work as a real estate broker. In my wildest dreams, I could not have imagined that the city of Aventura would have permitted the golf course to be converted into a water slide park. Those kids may be having a grand time going to these water chutes, but my own experience from a real estate point of view, unit sales and rentals at Bonavida are going down the tubes. And I'm really concerned the value of my unit here is tanking with it. Now, Safra Bank wishes to build a corporate bank tower. I understand construction is estimated to take about 30 months or 3 years or even longer with delays. I'm very concerned about structural damage that Bonavida could endure, given the architectural plans to provide understanding I'm sorry, excuse me, parking extending 3 stories below ground level. To excavate that amount of space will surely require blasting through the rock that lies beneath the surface. Considering how close the bank is to our building, I fear the blasting, the drilling, the jackhammering, the vibrations from demolition will have major structural consequences to the integrity of our building. I am concerned about the windows to our units, the underground water pipes servicing the pool, sewer lines, and the underground drainage system we installed to elevate the pond in our parking lot. We've had to pay several assessments for the upgrades and repairs to these operational structural systems. I cannot afford to be reassessed again for additional repairs caused by the construction of the Safra Bank Tower. The Bonavida is a 47-year-old, one of the first high-rise condos in Aventura, built by architect Morris Lapidus before the city was even incorporated. The bones are 47 years old. I understand the city is excited about the prospect of additional another LEED green building to its skyline, but the building of lavish banking tower should not come at an expense of equally iconic building that is now half a century in age. On behalf of my neighbors, I'm asking the City Commission to please table approval of this item until further studies are completed. Owners here need to be 100% sure every precaution is being undertaken by Safra Bank to ensure construction will not harm our home,
I
the Bonavida.
I think your time is up, so if you can wrap up your sentence, that would be wonderful.
I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Aida Delgado.
Good evening.
Hi, Ada. Have you been sworn in?
Not yet.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
It's Patricia Delgado, 20100 West Country Club Drive, apartment 507, Aventura 33180.
You can provide your comments.
Thank you all for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Madam, and members of the Commissioner. My name is Patricia Delgado, and since 1999, I live in Bonavida condominium. This is my permanent residence and not an investment property. My unit 507 faces directly the south side of the building, and the view from my home overlooks the present two-story Safra Bank building. Last month, when I received the notification that Safra Bank wanted to tear down its iconic two-story bank building and in place put a 12-story bank building that will be taller than our condominium, I was not surprised, but I was concerned, seriously concerned. I have been living in Bonavida again since 1999, and I remember in late October of 2005 when Hurricane Wilma struck. Even though we were not at risk, the winds from the hurricane were the worst part. I was at home and I saw the airborne debris from the library roof swirling in the air. My windows started to bow inward from the pressure. I was terrified that they will break and everything that I own will be soaked out in the street. I mentioned this incident as if Safra builds a tall building so close to Bonavita condominium. My concern is that it will dramatically increase the air pressure between the buildings during a storm. That might cause major damage to our windows. An inquiry was made to our Bonavita board to confirm if Safra did a study on the effects the building will have if a hurricane hits. And I was told that no such study was done or was required. I believe this to be unacceptable. I'm not quite sure how the commission will allow Safra to build a skyscraper here, and I consider the effects that will have on the buildings next door, especially units and facilities that are 50 years of age. My profession is human resources. My job is to investigate job applicants and ensure that the fully qualification for the job positions they seek is in place. I know that our major understands this since she was the head of the HR for the school district and knows the importance of background checks. My request is that to please review the project. We cannot stop the progress. I agree with that. We cannot stop businesses from coming to Aventura and wanting to build. But before they allow to do so, we need to ensure that our building is not going to build at the expense of other buildings that are already in place. I please ask our mayor and our commissioners to allow us to table the item so we can continue to do a little bit more diligence. And
Okay, I'm going to ask you to finish up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Pablo Miliani. Mr. Miliani, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, have you been sworn in?
I have.
Okay, I need you to state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
Before my time started, I want to know, I know of numerous residents that follow the instructions and submitted comments for reading onto the record to the city clerk, and I respectfully request that these comments be read into the record, including a petition by more than 380 people. My time start. My name is Pablo Miliani. I reside in 20100 West Country Club Drive, Unit 1207, 12-4, facing south. Members of the City Commission, Mr. Marrero, Ms. Stilberman, attending residents of Aventura. I would like to thank the city staff who have worked or been involved in fulfilling my information requests regarding this project. Some were not fulfilled and noted. It is disheartening to listen to the city commissioners condescending speaking to its taxpayers. Commissioners talk about traffic at the June workshop, but they produce more cars without roads. It is all Safra once or nothing. You know, can the building be 150, 130, 160, 200? It is actually 235. How could be a larger building without more area be good? No additional permanent jobs for the added height. So we're giving everything and getting back very little in return. It was disheartening to participate in the meeting with Mr. Marrero. Nothing was addressed. Multiple times we were told, we do not have to answer your question by the architect. I was at this meeting, no one from the city was, no one from the city commission was. I can't believe how the meeting is being characterized by the applicant and the former commissioners and on their oath, my God. It is abusive to ask for maximum limits and not commit to maximum certification. When used responsibly, developers can produce great new buildings. Optima is an example, requested only a minimum increase in FAR from 1.39 to 1.41. I repeat, 1.39 to 1.41 and committed to platinum certification. One would think that Safra would want the best, perhaps not on sustainability. It is asking for the maximum FAR and maximum height, yet it's only willing to commit to gold LEED certification. What a disappointment. What a disappointment in the city that is not asking for more for its residents. The other green door is, unfortunately, the door of influence at the city of Aventura, the greenback door. It is unfortunate that most of the city commissioners that are sitting before us have received campaign contributions from the applicant attorney. It taints Safra application, it taints the Safra brand, already damaged Brazilians' perspective who represent more than 10% of this building, Bonavida, and the adverse effects of this monstrosity. When Safra tried doing the same in London, the city had the courage to push back. We all want progress. The city is responsible and the city residents, but in order to do that, let's do it the right way. Please fix drainage issues. Please expand turning lanes into Aventura Boulevard before you consider putting an additional 900 trips or so. Honorable City Commission, do the right thing. Aventura sustainability is being challenged by very skillful developers that, in my opinion, are abusing the incentives, making a building taller.
I have to ask you to finish your sentence, please.
Making a building taller only for aesthetics, the opposite to the nature of the first green door that the city should open to responsible developers. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
All right, the next speaker is Gabby Resnick.
Now?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Have you been sworn in?
Yes, at the beginning.
All right, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Gabriela Resnick. My address is 20300 West Country Club Drive. I guess that I am the first resident besides Bonavida residents. We are neighbors. I am the president of the board in Villa Dorada Condominium Association, which has 360 units, 9 buildings, and a very unique and fully of landscaping and family-oriented community, okay? To begin, I just want to thank all of you for the hard work that you do for our city. Our city looks amazing, it's improving every time, every day you can see something new and something, another improvement, okay? This night, unfortunately, I need to disagree with you guys. I really don't want to waste everybody's time repeating what it was already said. We share the concerns that Bonavida residents were discussing this night, especially the precedent that this development can set, the flooding, and the parking. I just want to support what the attorney, Alessandra, was requiring to the city, which is just tabling and getting better, proper studies to assure us. I guess that the decision is already made, as I heard, but please table it and get better studies for the best of all our communities and the zone. The only thing that I can tell now that could be positive is that for the first time, the city can focus in our area, which is a little bit abandoned. I need to tell you, this area, this area is really dark at night. It's a liability for the city. It's a liability for our communities. It's not safe at all. So I take this opportunity to require more light in our area. And my suggestion for this is to require the developer, the applicant, if they can collaborate with these two communities that will receive really bad impact with this decision, if they can collaborate with the great problem that we have with the parking situation. So maybe if they are building a great parking lot, they can collaborate with our communities, helping with that. Maybe it's a suggestion, as they are impacting our area in a very bad way, they can improve all of our the other problem that we have, which is the
Ms.
parking.
Resnick, I have to ask you to finish up your sentence.
Absolutely, this is everything that I just supporting the concerns and the require of tabling and suggesting that we can get some benefit for this, since we are getting the worst impact from this development.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so.
All right, the next speaker is on a phone ending in 957. Speaker on the telephone ending in 957, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with that one. The next speaker is Adriana Engelberg.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Have you been sworn in?
No.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, please provide me
okay.
your address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yes. My name is Adriana Engelberg. My address is Bonavida, 2100 West Country Club Drive, Penthouse 8. Actually, I recently purchased a condo in the Bonavida building, especially because it offered me and my family a quiet neighborhood, peaceful neighborhood. But now I learned Safra is building a huge commercial building that could take all of that away. I definitely would reconsider buying in Bonavida had I known this big commercial building was going up. I wonder how many other people will pass on moving to this great place or even leave. I think there are too many concerns for you to move forward with this project. I just, ask please to reconsider, and thank you all for the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right, the next speaker is Carlos Rodriguez.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Have you been sworn in?
Yes, later.
All right, please provide your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Carlos Rodriguez. I live in Bonavida, 1505. Lady Mayor, commissioners, many years back, when I did my PhD in England in Newcastle University, there was an iconic building. This word comes back. Iconic building was called Biker's Wall, done by a famous architect, Ralph Erskine. Now his mission was, and he lived there in the neighborhood for 6 months, and he said, put focus on the interest of the local people. Then the other example I have of something ionic is I lived before coming to Aventura, to the US, in a city called La Plata. It's a small university town in Argentina. And there we have an iconic building. It's a tiny house that today houses the College of Architects. It was done by Le Corbusier. And it's iconic. It doesn't have to be monumental and monstrous like this Safra building. So my comment is that this is not a Bonavida issue. This is an Aventura issue. I said in my letter, which I addressed to all of you because I sent an email to every one of you, that Aventura is an iconic city and should remain so. In my opinion, it will become iconic if this is approved by being the building that set the starting point for Aventura to become another Sunny Isles. So if that's what we want, this is what we're doing today, because we are allowing an expansion of the code for something that is out of proportion for a city like Aventura or the neighborhood where I live in Aventura. And I think now it is you, the city, that has to address this point, not Bonavida. Bonavida is just, something on the side. But the important thing here is that the proposal is monstrous and it's totally out of proportion to what the neighborhood is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam
Right,
Clerk.
there are no other speakers at this time.
Okay, there are no other speakers at this time.
Somebody just raised their hand. Two more people just raised their hand. All right, Annette Di Tommaso.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay, have you been sworn in?
I have, and for the record, my hand was raised from the beginning. I'm going to pass my time to Mavis Gellerman, who is here with me.
Hello?
Hi, can you please state your name and address for the record? And have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Okay, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Mavis Gellerman. I live at 20,100 West Country Club Drive, the Bonavita. I'm an owner at the Bonavita, a permanent resident of Aventura, and I've lived here since 1986. I've been on the board here for the past 10 years. People often ask me, how could the board have let the Turnberry build that water slide right across the street from us? Truthfully, we never even knew they were planning it. So since I'm staying safer at home due to the virus, I looked up the commission meetings on the Aventura website. All I found were the minutes of the workshop meeting of September 14, 2017, which I'll read from. The meeting was called to order by Mayor Enid Weissman at 9 a.m. and it goes to item 4. Site plan update. City manager, community development director Joanne Carr reviewed an application for the Turnberry Resort water amenity expansion and reported that the applicant was directed to meet with the neighboring property, Coronado, regarding the property. I was on the board in 2017. I was its president, and I can tell you Bonavita was never contacted to meet with the applicant, even though we are equally as close as Coronado. Just last month or so, when I was...
Ma'am, if I could interrupt you, can you please make your comments to the building? It's how it fits in with the community, or?
I'm right here. You caught me right as I was getting there.
Okay.
Just last month or so, when I received the commission meeting notice about the 3050 building, I went back to my computer and found the minutes of the workshop meeting for October 14, 2019. The meeting was called to order by Mayor Enid Weissman at 9 a.m. and goes on to item 2, 3050 Aventura Boulevard presentation. City manager Jeffrey Burko, et cetera, representing Safra Bank, provided an overview of the property. Robert Harrison, et cetera, presented a review of the project for a proposed 12-story building with underground parking, which will require conditional approval for a height of 200 feet and 80 feet above the current code allowance. On the bottom it reads, City Manager Summary, no action. We were never consulted, as the Coronado was in 1997. Now, when Safra presented its building plans to the commission last October, Bonavita was never given the same consideration for the applicant to meet with the neighboring property. I'm 83 years old and old enough to remember FDR. I remember the day he died in April 1945 and what Truman said to the press about becoming president. He said, and I quote, "I don't know any of you have ever had a bale of hay fall on you. Well, I feel like the sun, the stars, and all the planets just fell on me." That's how I feel about the Safra Tower building business, and why I'm asking the commission to please table this until all the questions we've submitted from the board and our members can be fully answered. Thank you so much for listening and understanding and hearing our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Okay, the next speaker is a phone ending in 957.
Shelley?
Hi, have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have. Sorry, I've been having trouble.
Okay.
So, anyway, my name is Mike Merberg, Bonavita 1703. I'm the owner.
Okay. You can provide your comments.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. It's obvious many of you have already made up your mind, but I'll take 3 minutes anyway to speak up for the neighborhood at large. Granting this conditional use application is not in the best interest of the city and its residents, is not in conformity with the city's comprehensive plan and is not the responsible way to accommodate growth. Country Club Drive is an oasis in the city of Aventura. It serves as a respite from the canyons of Sunny Isles Beach and the rush of Biscayne Boulevard, and it is where local residents and visitors head for exercise and leisurely walks. It is an integral part of the city, and it deserves serious and thoughtful consideration. You can exercise your discretion to judge each project on its own merits. The objectives of the city's comprehensive plan reflect the city's vision. The very first objective is the protection of the high-quality residential character of the city. Furthermore, when redevelopment is discussed, it is always in the context of maintaining the integrity of the built and natural environment, and it is noted that factors such as heights, bulk, and scale of architectural elements shall be considered. Currently, the tallest office buildings in Aventura measure approximately 139 feet and are located west of Biscayne Boulevard. Harbor Center is Aventura's tallest office tower east of Biscayne Boulevard. It is approximately 128 feet tall. At over 200 feet, this proposed project would be, far and away, the city's tallest office tower, significantly taller than Aventura Hospital's 11-story, 146-foot north tower. The city has a platinum LEED certified Class A office building within its borders. It is called the White Tower. It is 9 stories and is located on Biscayne Boulevard. Park Square Signature is another recently completed Class A office building. How tall are these two buildings? 104 feet each. They are approximately half the height that this project is requesting. 3050 Aventura Boulevard would not be reflective of the recent projects the city has helped guide, such as the library, the mall's new wing, Regency's Public Shopping Center, and the Aventura Park Square. The scale of these much more impactful projects actually conforms to the neighborhood. Shouldn't the city insist that this project do the same? We trust that you will make the right decision to reject this application. By refusing to allow an out-of-scale piece of architecture to dominate and alter the character of the neighborhood, and by letting it be known with your vote that the City of Excellence will not be used for these type of vanity projects, you will be protecting the high-quality residential character of the city and reinforcing the expectation that forthcoming projects enhance and grow the city responsibly. Rejecting this application is not anti-growth. It's the right decision that sets about balancing all interests within the city. Please do the right thing and have the courage to deny or postpone this conditional use application. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
All right, I have Lita Andrew as the next speaker. Alita Andrew?
Yeah, I'm here. Could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Have you been sworn in?
No, man, I haven't been sworn in.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to provide comments.
My name is Aida Andrew, and for a change, I do not reside in Bonavita. I'm from North Miami Beach, and my address is 800 Northeast 195th Street, North Miami Beach, zip code 33179. The reason why I like to participate in this hearing, and I thank you all for taking the time and listening to me, is because I've been living in the area for the last 20 years. I'm a former Aventura Hospital employee and led the volunteer program and relate to many of the residents in the area. I know the value of the city's business community. This project is ideal and looks like a shiny, taller city hall building. So in my opinion, it even complements the city of excellence that Aventura City is. Now, I have a memory of, as you all recall, the Thunder Alley in Northeast at 188th Street. What happened with that? And I'm bringing this up to your attention because I know that a lot of the residents might consider all these have these concerns about the traffic, the shadows, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, if we do not have the opportunity to have such a beautiful, iconic building in there, Lord knows what is going to be building in there, that it could end up being an eyesore. Just what happened in Thunder Alley with the vertical marina. I don't know how well you guys remember that, but I just like to bring that to your attention. Sadly, when the high lift marina was denied, their additional height of only 2 stories, the project was abandoned by the City of Excellence and got stuck with this terrible eyesore permanently. And that is not in line with the character of our city. And actually all my kids live in Aventura and Harborside and all the different buildings around and the Point, and everything we do is in that area. And I appreciate you guys listening to my concern. And like I say, I don't live in Bonavita, but it is a beautiful, iconic building, modern, and all the cautions that people and the builders and the developer is taking to assure the safety of this building, I think is fantastic. Thank you for taking the time and listening to me, and have a good night.
Madam Clerk.
Right, the next speaker is Juan Porras.
I'm here. Can you listen to me?
I can hear you. Have you been sworn in?
Great. I'm owner of Bonavida.
All right, Mr. Porras, before you start, have you been sworn in?
Yes, I was in the beginning.
All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
So I'm a resident of Bonavida since 35 years. So now you're gonna know I'm an oldie. But I stand from a beautiful city like I have been able to live, and I thank you all that contributed to the development of Bonavida with beautiful parks, beautiful schools. But now, the only thing I would like to ask you, Mayor and Commissioners, is one thing. Please give us a little bit more time. We would like to analyze, and for you to analyze all the material that we have submitted to you. A PowerPoint that has not been able to be presented to you, and it's incredibly convincing with pictures, with legends, with showings, with lines, trying to make a point of what are our concerns, not only as owners and residents of Bonavida, but of the city of Aventura. I believe, I'm coming from Panama, that Aventura is one of the most beautiful cities. I believe that I have lived all over the world, and I have to admit to you that we have a great city. Please keep it that way, and the best way to do that is giving us consideration for a bit more time for you guys to analyze what we have submitted. And if the expansion of the building is not approved, Safra will have its building. It's going to be a beautiful building too, but maybe it doesn't go against the citizens, which is the only thing I'm asking, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
All right, Mayor, I'm not seeing any more speakers at this time.
Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to very briefly rebut some of what was said. It's inaccurate. If it's okay, if you don't want me to proceed, that's fine. But I do have a response for Mr. Weinberg.
I would really, you had your opportunity to speak. We had our opportunity to question you. We've heard from the public. I am ready. Vice Mayor Weinberg.
Mayor,
I'm ready to call the question, but I think Mr. Marrero was going to respond to my question earlier, if that's what he's doing then, or about the mosaic.
Yes, I did get a response.
Be my guest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry. Well, I did speak to my client. No, thank you,
One
Mr.
second, Mr. Marrero, I definitely don't want it. I don't want anybody thinking that mosaic plays into a vote this evening. So please,
Exactly.
let's, whatever that is, let's talk about that later. And I have a motion on the floor, do I not? Vice
You have
Mayor?
a second to call
I
the
don't need,
question.
thank you, Commissioner Shelley. And the question's been called, so I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks?
Mayor, may I just make one comment?
No, we're in the middle of a motion and the question's been called and we're in the middle of a vote.
I thought that we'd have an opportunity after we heard both sides to be able to ask a question.
It's the same way we process every meeting. We go first, the public comes in second, and then I ask the clerk for a vote.
Okay.
So I'd have to ask the attorney, we're in the middle of a motion. I don't believe it follows.
Right, you're at the point of the roll call vote now.
Okay. All right, yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi?
Yes.
Commissioner Neurosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weinberg?
Yes.
And Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We want to thank the applicant. We want to thank our residents for taking the time to come here and talk to us. And we want you to know that every single one of us has read all of the information. Our department has spent a number of months on the project. And I am now going to tell you, we don't have any public ordinances for first public reading. We don't have any for second public reading. We have no resolutions. So we're on reports. Are there any reports from our commissioners? Vice Mayor Weinberg.
I'm just reminding Mayor that I had asked that we consider a resolution. So I don't know if we're at that point yet or if that's.
Yes, I think this would be the time the attorney said would be the appropriate time to bring up your resolution.
Okay.
Mr. Waldman.
I believe we designated that it would be at item number 12, other business.
Well, I don't have, okay. We'll wait for other business.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody reports? I saw one other hand, I thought.
I think mine would be under other business also.
Oh, okay. All right, then we're open for public comments. I'm going to request the city attorney to review with the commission members the purpose of this item.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the City Commission rules, this portion of the agenda is simply for the City Commission to receive comments and input from the public. However, it is not to engage in any discussion or back and forth. If there is a follow-up action needed, the city manager, subsequent to the meeting, will follow up with the particular resident as to a concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak to the commission?
Yes, I see one person that's raised their hand. If there are other members of the public wishing to provide comments under public comment, please raise your hand at this time. We have a Sandy Bernstein.
Please a reminder of our time frame.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
Okay, Sandy Bernstein, 3530 Mystic Point Drive, Tower 500, Unit 3009. I have a question, and I guess if this is not going to be back and forth, I would kind of like an answer somehow from either the city manager about the mask requirements and how that's going to be enforced within the city of Aventura. We love walking around the circle from Mystic Point. We'll go to the circle. Nobody's wearing masks, and this has been a week since it went into effect in Miami-Dade. Mystic Point itself, nobody's wearing masks, and I don't know whether I mean, they sent letters out, but nobody's doing it. So I just want to know who's going to be doing the enforcing, because we can't really walk around Aventura because I'm in my 60s, my husband's in his 70s, and it's just not safe. And I just wanted an answer to that. If you can't do it tonight, I will call tomorrow and talk to the city manager.
Mr. City Manager, do you want to take it tonight or do you want to discuss it tomorrow?
I'd be happy to talk to her personally about it.
Okay, I will
so I
call
can really
tomorrow.
address it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm not seeing any other comments at this time.
Okay, then I'm going to close this for public comment, and we're on item 12, which is other business. So Vice Mayor Weinberg, I think this is the time.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I had hoped this wouldn't be necessary, but I see that there's been no resolution at Florida State University. I think most of you know that the Student Senate President had posted in the past some comments on social media, which would most certainly to a rational person be deemed to be anti-Semitic. Obviously, that is completely unacceptable, especially in this day and age. There can be no discrimination against any group of people, and we are community leaders. And if we stay silent regarding this, then shame on us. So I would ask that the commission, I would ask that we empower the city attorney to come up with appropriate resolution language that we could consider the next time that we meet. And then if we do pass it, we can forward it along to other cities in South Florida for them to consider modeling after as well. Thank you.
Does anyone care to ask Commissioner Mizrahi?
No, I totally agree with Vice Mayor Weinberg, but I have a question. We've passed already 2 resolutions against hate crimes. Isn't that similar? Like, David, isn't that, please correct me if I'm wrong?
If I may address that, yes.
Your attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the commission has taken strong actions opposing hate, opposing bigotry, opposing discrimination. If the commission consensus wants us to create a further resolution, we would confer with the ADL representatives, and we could draft one for the next commission meeting. But the record of our city is already clear, condemning all forms of hate, bigotry, and discrimination. However, it's up to
Vice Mayor Weinberg.
That's exactly the point. Those are hollow resolutions if we stand silently now. We said we condemn hate. Now we have an opportunity specifically to demand the ouster of an anti-Semite as the Student Senate President at FSU. If we don't do it, then what do our resolutions mean?
Vice Mayor Weinberg, I have a question. To your knowledge, has any other city passed a similar resolution? Because my understanding was they were working very hard. We have a number of kids that go to FSU that grew up in Aventura and attended ACES, and they're members of Hillel, and they've been actively working. And I thought that there were a couple of cities that already adopted something.
To my knowledge, I do not know, but I wanted to lead and not follow. So regardless, I want us to take action in a very strong way. And I think our constituents do as well.
Anybody?
Mayor?
Commissioner Mizrahi?
Do we have the authority by a resolution to remove somebody? As much as I would like to see this person out.
Well, I will tell you, you have just like you did with Guaido. You have the ability,
No, we have the ability to put it, but
the University of Florida, Florida State has full authority, okay? They're the only ones that can remove the person.
That's what I'm asking, correct? That's exactly what I'm asking.
And the president of FSU has declined to do that and has taken a very low profile approach like next to nothing. So they're the only people that can do that. I would have no problem if the attorney and vice mayor want to work on something and bring it back to us. But I don't know how anybody else feels.
This is Mark. I agree with that.
Okay. If it's gonna help, I agree. I totally agree.
Ms. Commissioner Landman.
Can we put it on the workshop agenda to discuss?
I believe if we can draft the resolution, it can be on the workshop, or even we do have a special council commission meeting right before the workshop that we'll be talking about the general budget. So it could possibly be added there.
I would like that. It's certainly time sensitive, if there's a consensus.
Well, this is a meeting. It's not a workshop. So, City Clerk? We can't hear you.
I have Rachel Friedland who has raised her hand to provide comments on this item. I don't know if you want to allow her to.
I don't think I can address her now because we're finished with public comment, and I don't know, Mr. Attorney.
That's correct. You're already finished with public comment, but I think I've heard enough that I could draft a proposed resolution.
All right, so let me put it this way. Is there anyone on the commission that has reservations about our attorney drafting something? Okay, then it seems to me that Vice Mayor, the attorney is going to work on drafting something and getting it back to us perhaps the next time we meet.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Marks.
Can I talk on another topic? And are we done with Howard? Are we done with your?
Howard's topic, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to bring up to the commission, with the increased numbers of COVID-19 skyrocketing right now. Early on, when COVID first came, we had Banyan that came out here and did some antibody testing. And there were questions about whether that was, very accurate, not very accurate, but nevertheless, people did get results, and it did identify some people who had COVID, and that was helpful. At this point, it's clear that the only way to identify whether you have COVID or not is through a nasal swab. The lines to get the nasal swab test, as you see on TV, you wait in line for hours. People are also making appointments at local health centers, and they're standing in lines that are often not socially distanced, just because they also just want to see if they have COVID or not. I'm wondering if the commission would consider, and I'm happy to work with the city manager on this. I wonder if the commission would consider looking into the possibility of maybe having someone out here, let's say even once a week. We've already got a model site at Waterways in terms of knowing we can do this through a drive-through, which is much safer, where you'd make an appointment. There are several companies right now that are doing this full-time, and you get your results back in 3 days instead of 7 or 8 days. And I'm just wondering if the commission would entertain the possibility of our looking into this. And we could report back at the workshop meeting to see if there is something that we could offer our residents as this COVID just becomes more and more prevalent everywhere. Thank you.
Commissioner Neurosky.
I would just add, I definitely would support us looking into that, but just to make sure that if we are going to expend any resources from tax monies, that we have that conversation ahead of time before we get up and running.
The companies that I've looked at so far, some of them do charge, but the resident who would get the test would be paying, and there would be no expenditure other than, I don't know, the city manager might be able to tell us if there's any charge in terms of the tent set up or anything over at Waterways.
I think it's a very good idea, and also I'm sure Ron will explore the potential traffic implications if we have tons of people lining up and everything, but I think it should be explored.
Well, I will say we had testing here for a number of months, and at times, you could see a line going from the mall when the mall was closed. I don't think it impacted traffic because it remained within the mall's parking lot. But Mr. Watson, if you want to take it, and right after you answering that, it's Commissioner Shelley.
I don't think traffic would be an issue to do this. It would be just a matter of getting a company, they wanted to do it, and then just setting it up similar to what we had before. If we do, there's stuff to look into. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
And I think we're all unanimous that we should have Ron Watson, the city manager, look into this. I think we all would think it's a benefit to the city. So to talk about it further, I think let's just see what Mr. Watson can come up with.
Thank you, and I'm happy to provide the companies that I looked at already.
One second, Dr. Marks. Commissioner Mizrahi.
When the testing was on 2/13, everything was extremely organized. I went through there every single day and there was no traffic. It was perfectly organized on one lane, so I think that would be a good place. But yes, I had also asked the city manager to put it in the commission workshop to bring it back. The lines today were an average of 7 hours.
Dr. Marks.
Yeah, I've done some initial research, and I'm happy to work with Ron the same way we did with with getting the site up for people to call in, in terms of mental health. And as long as you're okay, we can look into it and bring it back to you at the workshop.
I think that I'm seeing nods. I'm seeing nods and thumbs up from commissioners. So I think I have enough, Mr. Watson, to tell you, I got your thumbs up, then we're good with it. Okay. Well, they'll work on it and bring something back to us. Anyone else? Commissioner Shelley.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I was just going to ask, can I
second.
have a second? Seconded by Mark Neurosky. I want to thank all of you. This is one of the hardest formats, I believe, to do any kind of meeting in. Mark loves it.
I do love it, but this was a record for I've been on the commission, like 4 or 5 years? This was the longest.
6.
No, maybe we had the downstairs meetings have been longer, but I mean, like the ones, around the table. I mean, not downstairs. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Workshop.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. Wear your masks. Be safe.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. Take care. Be well.